Hello and welcome to another live chat. Just waiting for people to join. So I'll just waffle on while hopefully, if TikTok does its job right, it will contact people and tell them that I'm actually doing a live. If TikTok likes me at all, they will do that. But the amount of times I get people saying that TikTok never notified them, oh well, that's TikTok for you, I guess. But interestingly, I was blocked the other day while doing a live chat, and it turns out it was because I'm doing the same background here. It was the reason why I got blocked is because some religious people said that I was talking about hate speech. Of course, I appealed it, and TikTok said, "Yeah, of course you wasn't talking about hate speech. You was actually giving the facts about ancient tablets, etc. So you're not you're not a bad person. You're a genius." They said. Well, I mean, that's what I read anyway. I don't know if they actually said all of that, but Jess has joined. Hi, Jess. Hi, everyone that's joining. So this is live. I've just started, and James has wrote, I think there is many races of ETs. Which ones do you think helped us? Well, we've actually got the actual evidence in the form of 2 million tablets. The British Museum's got them. The Louvre. Oh, they're all over the place. Literally, Israel Museum, Baghdad Museum. And it basically says, now I've done a video series called The Lost Book of Our True History, and in fact I'm still doing it. It's already up. There's 35 minutes of it, so if you want proof of who it is, the Anunnaki, pop onto my YouTube channel. Thank you, Jess. You really don't have to, but I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, pop onto my YouTube channel, Our True History. Just type in Outer History, maybe type in the word parts. Look for one of the newer videos. I think there's probably the third one back from the newest. And it's about 25 minutes, I think. Hi, Winnie. They let me back on, Winnie. Um, but on that 25 minutes, it shows you the comparison between the Bible and the older texts that the Bible copied from. And so far, no one's debunked it. I have pointed to people go watch it. Religious people that have told me I'm wrong, and of course they won't, because they in their heart I think they know that there's no invisible man with a beard that needs a shave. But the Anunnaki do have beards, and yes, they did have the blonde hair, etc. Thank you, Winnie. So yeah, we've actually got the tablet. So if you're interested to find out just 25 minutes worth of proof, if you want to go for the full proof, then feel free to watch my Patreon videos. There's loads, but it continues on, or the whole lot is on there. However, I have been working on segment 9 today, I think it is, of that particular subject, and it's to do with the firmament. Because just like I got fed up with people saying that Zachariah Sitchin's book, The Lost Book of Enki, was wrong, I'm getting so fed up with people who keep telling me that there's a dome over the earth because they read the Bible. And of course, I've read the ancient texts that predate the Bible that mention the word firmament. So they've got it from the Bible. I go back to the original source. So I've been working on that. And so maybe tomorrow it may be released. I'll probably put some of it on YouTube just to shut people up, like I've done with this religious one. It gives the answers to everything that they need to hear. So yeah, it's a race basically called the Anunnaki. Literally, I read out all the tablets on that series. Just as right, who built the pyramids? So, from my research, the ziggurats were before the Giza pyramids. So the ziggurats are the stepped pyramids, and when just after the flood, they needed to build some sort of pyramid or some sort of beacon. So Ningazida, which would have been Thoth, which also matches up with the Lost Book of not Lost Book, well, yeah, technically the Lost Book of Enki, but also matches up with the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, where Thoth says that he built certainly one of the pyramids. So when you work out that Thoth is Ningazida stroke Hermes, then you realise that, yes, it was more than likely him, and so when you break that also down even further, so Thoth was, according to the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, Thoth was on Atlantis before it got sunk. So when you read that, and then you watch my video, the pinned video on my TikToks, where I prove that Thoth had a temple at the place where I said that that Atlantis was. I mean, talk about smoking gun. That's just one of many points that I've pointed out where I believe I'm right. So yeah, so basically, in the end, after the Giza pyramids were built by Ningazida, and obviously some of the other Anunnaki helping, and possibly some of the humans that were still around at that point after the flood, not necessarily giants. I doubt. I mean, I can't say for sure that they didn't use giants for their help. And when I say the giants, they would have been the offspring off of the Anunnaki and the humans. I can't say that they didn't, but if you read everything, they had a dislike for the giants because they were eating people and stuff like that. So they were the bad ones. So for them to have used the giants would have probably not been a good idea for them. So I doubt if they did. But down the line, they ended up starting to teach us pesky little humans, and they did call us little people. They did start teaching us, or certain people, how to build certain structures. Now on my Patreon page, and I keep going back to that, on my Patreon page I give one option of how they could actually cut these blocks. Now I know there's people out there that talks about the blocks being concrete or limecrete, but it takes 2 weeks to cure, so it's not going to happen. Of course, all the blocks are different sizes, which means you would have had, for the Giza pyramids, you would have needed, moulds in the range of probably 1 million or 2 million, or one mould that would actually go bigger and smaller each time you used it, which makes no sense as to why they would have had it smaller. You would have done one size all the way around, and then when you got to the last bit, you would have then used a smaller one to fit in between. But that's just Jess has wrote, glad you're back. Thank you, Jess. Yeah, they realised that I wasn't being nasty to anyone. In fact, it was probably the other way around, I would have said, and if you was listening, you probably would agree. Taya has wrote, hi everyone, hi there. Kerry's wrote, hello everyone, hello Kerry. Fririzikson, I don't know how you pronounce that, has wrote, can the aliens uncreate me please and thanks? I would probably go back to your parents, to be honest. They had more of a hand in it than the aliens way back then, but I hear what you're saying. And sometimes I do think the same. Billy Shears is right. I'm 49% alien and 51% human. I'm the representative on Earth for numptiness. Oh, Billy. I'm sure you are. Angels Watching has wrote, did we come from another planet? No, we didn't. We're a genetic modification from the hominid species that was here at the time. And then that was done by the Anunnaki messing with the DNA of the hominid species and then impregnating their own. They originally tried with the hominid, but it kept failing, so they ended up impregnating their own females, the Anunnaki females, to give birth to 7 males and 7 females, which is why we have the 7 mothers of Earth, or 7 mothers of humans. Technically, you've got one Mother Earth, which was Nimna, that was the first one, but then you have the class as a 7. Jun X has wrote, I think Enki was only able to directly communicate with Anu after the flood because Nibiru was near. It's an interesting thought, that, actually, Jun, because I sometimes wonder why they didn't stay in communication with him all this time. So you might actually be onto something. The reason for that is that when you read the tablets, when King Anu finally comes over, they go through a hell of a lot of stuff with him, and he's like, oh, I didn't know Marduk was banished, and I didn't know this, and I didn't know that. So I can't help but think you're right. I can't help, the logic would be, hey, Dad, guess what's happened last week? But they left it for a long, long, long period of time before they actually would have, thousands and thousands of years before they would have communicated with him again. So maybe they only had a shorter range communications there. So well done. Good, go to the top of the class for that. Leah's wrote, hiya. Hi, Leah. Nice of you to join. KG Dag Host has wrote Anunnaki. That's correct. Obviously, you've done your homework. Winnie's wrote, yeah, the boss is back. Yeah. Ding dong, the boss is back. Yeah, they can't keep a good man down. Kerry's wrote, glad to see you back. Yeah, they it was some religious people that thought I was being nasty to them just by saying that there's tablets that's older than the Bible and the Bible copied from them. They didn't like that, but TikTok saw right through that and said no. DJ Richmond has wrote, sure, it's settled. I'm not sure what that's referring to. Jess has wrote, what's your name? I go by many different names. I do a lot of different things, so I go by a lot of different names for the different things that I do. And I try and avoid showing people my name because, just like what happened the other day, when you get people that don't like what you do, they will then cause problems. So it's easier if I just so you can call me Outro History, call me for dinner, call me yeah, you get it. So just call me whatever you want, politely. Fiona's wrote, there is no space. TGE world is phone shaped, not round. The funny thing is, I had someone actually just say today on one of my posts that because he posted on about Mars, one of the videos I've done on Mars, and he goes, Mars is CGI, get real, you know, meaning I'm an idiot. So I wrote back to him saying, oh, excellent, how did the Sumerians create the CGI Mars? What was the benefit of it? And he goes, well, what's this then? What's what? Because obviously they don't know. No one. It's the same as this Fiona person here. I don't mean to sound rude, but you obviously haven't really researched. You've probably just watched a few videos. In fact, which is what I'm doing at the moment. I'm editing video. Anyway, so I wrote back to this person saying, look up Lahmu or Lahmu, because it's also used two different names. Thank you, Delchick, for the rose. So anyway, this person's went away and hopefully looked it up and realised that, yeah, it would be a bit stupid to say that Mars was CGI when really we have written records from the oldest known civilization. Thank you, Senzu. I saw that pop up there. So the other thing is, with this new video that I'm doing as part of the long series, I am going through, and even to the point where I'm showing how easy it is that people mistakenly follow YouTubers. And reason for that is I picked one of the videos. I picked one from TikTok. Quite simply, the woman is asked in a pilot, did we see any curvature as we was flying over from the trip that they was on? And the guy goes, no, it was flat. So of course people were saying, there you go, it's flat. At their altitude, it's flat. Concorde, slightly different. It was a lot higher. You would have saw the curvature. So by a simple process of using a bit of logic, where the person says to the pilot, hey, did you see any curvature on that flight? He says, no, it was flat. He's telling the truth. Doesn't mean it's a flat Earth. So it's very easy to manipulate people if they're not on top of the game. And I'm not knocking Fiona here, who's saying there's no space, but simple way to prove that, Fiona, would be Halley's Comet. It comes around every 70 odd years. It's not in water because it would have needed a power source to come round exactly at the same point every 70 odd years. And of course, if it was in water, it wouldn't have the towel, that you wouldn't see the towel burning off of it from the fake sun that some people say is fake. However, it's bloody hot today, so I don't know if there's any fake people listening that thinks that the sun's fake. Because could someone turn it down a little bit if it is fake? So yeah, Halley's Comet destroys the fact that there is no space. And of course, then you've also got that if there is no space, NASA and Russians, etc., all come up with the idea way back. Let's pretend, think about this, everybody. Let's pretend that space, even though they haven't been up there yet, is weightlessness. There's no gravity up there. Lo and behold, roll on to when they started doing things like the vomit comet that produced weightlessness. Wow, what a bit of luck. Coincidence. We actually said there's no gravity, and now we can really pretend to people that there's no gravity up there. Do you see what I mean? It's just it's too easy. Joanne's wrote, what's your conspiracy theory in the Ocean Gate? I know I've seen so many people saying, it's a distraction. They've now allowed was it homegrown meats to be passed a law on while that was happening, etc., etc. They're going to they always, thank you, Ian. I think it was just Ian that popped up there. I saw, but yeah, governments will always utilise something. I mean, we know that from the 9/11. The day before they lost trillions. Next day, no one's talking about it. So any big event, they'll slip in whatever they can just to get things through without anyone noticing. But, unfortunately, it sounds like it was just a poorly designed sub, sadly, to me. Common Sense has wrote, you can theorize all you want, but you're never going to know. I'd recommend getting a hobby. And that's coming from someone called Common Sense, who's obviously not aware of such things as 2 million tablets. Wow. Mr. Dread has wrote, so are you saying there is no firmament? So the firmament description, which I'm doing this video absolutely... if you watch any of my other videos, especially on the Patreon page, I've done ones on spirits and mermaids and everything. No one's ever going to debunk them because I do absolutely the very best I can. And I'm doing it on the firmament. Thank you, Kiermum. What a name, Kiermum. Sorry, it wasn't being bad. I was going to read it out, Kier, and then I saw Mum. Anyway. Thank you, Nadine. Sorry, I'm getting distracted now. But yeah, so basically, I go back on this video. So once it's done, I won't have to sit here and explain to you that the layer between space and Earth, very thin layer, that only takes a second or two from astronauts' point of view, between atmosphere and weightlessness, according to astronauts. That's the layer that's called the firmament. Now, you'll probably say, no, it's not, because the Bible said X, Y, Z. But, when you realise the Bible is a poorly translated copy, and again, go watch my YouTube video, 25 minutes long, then no one's ever going to say I'm wrong on that. You can't. So when you realise that the Bible's a poorly translated copy, then you should think, okay, well, what is the older text? Let's watch Our True History's video when he's done it, and I'm sure he'll be right. So that's all it was. And unfortunately, somehow the Bible's, and I'm not going to spoil it for people that do want to watch it on my Patreon page, but it's mainly it's to do with so above, so below, and the waters above the firmament. That's really where mostly people get the idea that there's no space from. So just hold on, you will get the definitive video with all the evidence, because I do it by evidence. And then you can go around telling everyone that they're all wrong and Our True History is right, without sounding big-headed, which I am. Cameron's wrote, nah. Thank you, Leah, for the little fox. Oh, that's cute. Cameron's wrote, nah, depression is the firmament. It's just a distraction. Well, the actual word firmament is actually in the oldest known language that we have. So the few handful of people that could read or write back then did mention the firmament. So it's not a fictitious thing for them to suddenly make up the word firmament and then, talk about that particular layer. So basically, the Anunnaki struggled to get through the firmament, which is, our atmosphere, which is fine, makes sense. DTS has wrote, aliens aren't from outer space and they are human, just a different race. No problem at all, DTS. If you could give me the evidence of that. I've actually proved the evidence on my Patreon page video called The Lost Book of Our True History. I proved that they're from another planet. Proved it. So if you could just prove to me that there is no such thing as an alien from another planet, so the little bug-eyed ones, etc., they're just a different race. The Palladians, the Dracos, the reptilians, etc. So DTS, everybody, DTS is going to tell us where the evidence is, because they've said it as a matter of fact. This is, forgive me if you've never heard me talk before, I go by facts. So if you come on here and quote something like that, and I'll read it again for everyone to hear: aliens aren't from outer space and they are human, just a different race. So when you quote that, you have to back it up, because this is what I do on my videos. That's why people watch them. So please, everybody, it's going to be cool when I get to read that part. This is live, everybody. So DTS has either done a runner or is going to say something quite rude. This is what normally happens when I ask people for evidence. Namgugul, or Namogel, has wrote, what's your definition of alien? Not of this world. Rawl has wrote, if these people were so advanced, then how they got sunk in the flood? They didn't. We've actually got the text where they're looking down at us from their craft. They knew about the flood. They actually allowed it. There was an assembly that they allowed, and they even pulled the mooring pins out. And if you don't know what I'm on about, either do some research or watch my Patreon video that I actually read out where the translations. This is the actual tablets are in the British Museum. So they've got these mooring pins that were holding the ice back in. Now there is something else that I've found that Zachariah Sitchin hasn't, in my opinion, or if he has, he's neglected to mention it, and that is that they actually used a weapon of some description to help the flood along. Now, Sitchin's version is that the gravitational pull of Nibiru is what caused the ice shelf to break. However, reading, they actually name a weapon, because they actually, if you read it properly, they actually asked Enki to build this particular type of device that will help break the ice shelf. So I don't think it was necessarily the gravity of Nibiru coming around. I think it was an actual weapon that they used, because when you carry on reading, it's like, how could I have used that? That's not me. That's the sort of thing Enlil would have done. Blah blah blah. So I'll do a whole separate video on that, because it does break it down. But I have put that all in the Patreon video if anyone's interested in it. DTS has wrote, firmament is real, nothing coming or going out. So DTS believes that there's an invisible dome, which again, once I've finished this video, you'll have to agree with me. I don't mean to sound rude, but you have to agree with me. You do realise that this invisible dome that no one's ever seen, there's only about 8 people on this planet that's ever seen it, DTS, and they're all people from back in ancient times. So either they had better eyesight than us, or they were writing about it because their crafts were coming through it. I'll ask DTS right now, everybody. DTS believes that the firmament is real, because he wrote that. Firmament is real. Okay, DTS, if you could just name one person, that has seen the firmament and has actually catalogued it, wrote it down, took a picture, anything whatsoever, modern times, not ancient times. I'm looking forward to this. Roll has wrote, I don't get it. I'm not sure what you don't get. Sorry. Oh, you're referring about how these people... Well, the Anunnaki, they had craft. They were aliens, so they flew up in and watched us all perish, pretty much. Judas wrote, what's your opinion on the Gnostic view? I always add the edgy on that Gnostic view. I don't... I mean, anything that is more modern, I shy away from, simply because it's pretty much man-made, regardless whether you're an atheist or a Gnostic or a Christian or whatever. It's a man-made construct, which is fine, not a problem, but I go back to the original text, really. So whatever people want to feel that come after, it's up to them if they're happy. So, yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Lisa's wrote pesky. Pesky people, probably, when I was talking about the Anunnaki called us little people, Lisa's probably saying pesky little people. And they would have got away with it if it wasn't for Grandpa Joe. Jess has wrote, what happened to the giants? So, you've probably heard the stories that the giants carried on living. We've got the Kandahar giants, we've got giants from the Native Americans, stories of them, setting a fire to the cave, and in fact, actually having, later on, people actually went back to that cave well, probably a century later, and actually found the giant bones and red hair of the giants that the tribe had said that they, because they basically kept going in to eat people, these giants. So they carried on living after the flood. Now the flood, when you read the actual tablets, you'll realise that the flood didn't wipe out everyone. It wiped out a hell of a lot. But it didn't wipe out everyone. So there were people still around, which is how Noah and his family could end up breeding with some of the other normal humans that were, when I say normal, the original ones that the Anunnaki had already created. So they, many survived, and obviously the giants managed to survive as well, simply because of the stories that go along with it, all the way up till fairly recently. It scrolled all the way to the bottom. I'm just going back to the top. DTS wrote, they don't get sunk, and that area was sunk. So you're obviously on about the flooding, because they had spaceships. They tell us that they're looking down at us. I've read the tablets over and over many a time. You can go. I tell you what, if you're interested in finding the tablets, Oxford University website. Look up the translations. Look up. Just type in flood, and you'll find it. Or go to British Museum. There's loads of places you can read, because each one's got a slightly different version. Not different as in contradiction, but from a different perspective. So Gilgamesh talks about the flood from his perspective, from talking to one of the people that was there at that point, or one of the Anunnaki that was there at that point. Kerry's wrote, would using giants to build the pyramids explain how they lifted the heavy blocks? Yes, it would, but I did a video that showed that the world's strongest man, Eddie Hall, could only lift half a ton, and that was a few inches off the ground. So I upscaled that to be able to lift some of these blocks. You would have needed at least 2 or 3 massive giants, 36 foot tall, to even lift it and move it. So it's not, it's not. You'd have to be a mile high to be able to not find it difficult to lift these blocks. So when you look at the evidence of levitation, acoustic levitation, with the quartz that's in all of them, pretty much all of the main monuments around the world that shouldn't really be there because they're too big, you'll find that each one of even Stonehenge has got quartz in it. So when you realise that they used things that had quartz in it because quartz has a resonance frequency, and you start doing research, watch my videos on my TikTok page, I do cover it, and you'll find that that's more than likely how they moved the blocks. KD Gag has wrote, pyramids were built with frequencies. That's pretty much what I was just saying. Run from the Livings wrote, have you seen the sky ice? They tunnelled out and grew back around the drill. Looks like frozen. No, I haven't. That's interesting. I'll try and look out for that. Thank you. Eccentric has wrote, hello, I would like to know more on this subject. Feel free to listen, or I have a website. You can go on there and just type in Anunnaki for the search, and you'll get hours of what they look like, what they are, everything that you hopefully can possibly want to know. Run from the Livings wrote, oxygen leading to your frozen core theory. Ah, okay, yeah, interesting. Thank you for that. Yeah, so I've been saying for a very long time that I believe our Earth's core isn't molten iron, but it was in fact an ice core, and more evidence is coming out now that it seems to be an ice core, which is why people should be following me. Robert Smith is right. I've always believed this. I mean, brilliant, Robert. The thing is, I kind of thought it years ago, but I didn't have the evidence until the internet came along. I know people say, "Oh, well, you're an internet researcher," but if it wasn't internet, it would have been books. If it wasn't books, you would have been chatting to someone. So, you can't always go and be the first to work everything out. Although I'm pretty good at working out some stuff. So yeah, we've got the tablets and we've got the translations of these tablets that prove it. Basically, Cameron's wrote silly. Well, they actually wrote Sill Billy. I'm guessing that's Silly Billy, but Mr. Wyoff. Jess has wrote, "What are we looking for when searching for aliens? Do you mean SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, or do you mean ancient aliens?" I'm not sure which you're referring to. So what are we looking for when we're searching for aliens? So if it's ancient aliens, there was only about maximum 2,000 Anunnaki here at any one point in the Middle East. So the American government, Saddam's found whatever they want to find, and then no one's going to be able to go in and suddenly find new things without, probably being bumped off or whatever. So from ancient aliens, it's going to be really hard to find any more evidence than we've already got. Trippers wrote, "God created humans." Sorry everybody, I'm just gonna block this person only because these are the people that caused me a problem last time. After I got blocked by TikTok, when TikTok after they realised that no, I'm a genius and they shouldn't have blocked me. So I said to myself from the other day when my live got cut off, I said I'm going to block people that say God created humans only because I don't want to cause a problem, and it's easier that way. So it's not me getting rid of them from an argument point of view. It's because in the past they've called me very sick names. They don't even know me, but they've called me very sick names, sick, real sick stuff that I wouldn't even thought of, and my moderators have had to block them, etc. So it's easier now just to block them, so I don't, because normally I would have said, well, God created humans, and I would have said, okay, show me the evidence, I can show you my evidence, and of course they get angry and blah blah blah. So now it's easier, just because of what happened the other day, just to block them and talk to you guys that are interested, that's got a bit more of awareness than just believing in 1,200 pages. You do even, from the Bible's point of view, you do know that even the first 6 days, they don't even get that right. On one particular Bible part, it's talking about on the 6th day they created humans. On another one, it's the 3rd day they created humans. God created humans, and so on. So even right at the beginning of the Bible, it's messed up. Whereas we've got 2 million tablets. Do you know how many of those is what's the word? Contradict each other. 2 million tablets, none. Joe has wrote, "Are demons and aliens in cahoots with each other?" So demons, the original word for demon was meteorite. Down the line, people used it just as we use the word FU and then add a couple of letters after that. That can be used for so many different things. An angry word, a love word, all that kind of thing. And so down the line, people started using the word demon because it was classed as something that was scary or evil. Same as monster. Monster's normally something scary that you can't describe. Demon was something you can't describe. So when you say are demons and aliens, there's really no such thing as a demon, because it's just like a monster. It's just another name for something. I believe Bill Gates is a demon, but you may not, and therefore, how can we tell the difference? So yeah, so sorry, moderator muted someone. I'm wondering if that was some religious people, maybe. Sorry, because it scrolled all the way to the bottom. I've now missed a huge chunk. Forgive me. It's not intentional. So I now have to read from where I am now, and the first person that I can go as high as is Peaceful wrote, "Stop talking foolish." This is what happens when you get people that, shall we say, believe in 1,200 pages full of contradictions. They want to, instead of giving me evidence, because that's what I would do if I went on someone else's channel and they were talking about this kind of stuff. I would say, "Thank you, Winnie. Thank you, Sonny Vat, for the rose." Yeah, I would go on, if I was going to go on someone else's channel, I wouldn't say you're talking rubbish to someone talking about God. I wouldn't do that because I'm a grown up. But what I would do is, and I have, is, "Oh, have you seen the Sumerian tablets?" And they say, "What do you mean Sumerian tablets?" And I know straight away that they haven't got a clue. Then they're only just sort of fixated on the one particular Bible. So then I say to them, "Oh, the Sumerian tablets predate the Bible," and then they say, "No, they don't. Nothing predates Hebrew." And then I said, "Well, actually, the Hebrew is, the word Elohim is even copied from an older text." And they, "Oh, yeah, well, I know that." Well, then Hebrew's not the, it goes on like that. But I give my evidence. I never say a bad thing. Anyway, Tick Clock Time has wrote, "Go tell your mum this BS." I have, actually. Again, another person. This is why my moderators are probably blocking them, because I'm just wasting my time. Because they can't give me any evidence. They cannot give me any evidence, whereas I can point evidence all day long and do. Waties wrote, "There are different types of aliens, isn't it, bro? There are different types, but not the ones that created us. They were just one race that we've got evidence that they did." Joss Ito. "I like to change the universe energy events. I'm rare. I'm intrigued how you do that." Lily Bner has wrote, "What evidence? OMG." Well, the 2 million tablets, the carvings, the fused chromosomes that humans got, the fact that everything that these tablets said happened, they've got the evidence for, such as the first Homo sapiens being in the Absu, South Africa, which is where the tablets say, the first white people being the offspring of the Anunnaki, being in Mesopotamia, which is exactly where the tablets say. Basically, it carries on. The list carries on. But if you don't believe me, go watch they won't. No one does. No one that doesn't want to hear it anyway. Go watch my video on my YouTube channel. It's called The Lost Book of Our True History. Feel free to watch that. Only 25 minutes. There's hours worth on my Patreon page. Come back and explain just one bit where I'm wrong. That's all I'm asking. One bit. No one will. Ascula wrote, "I want to go to Jesus when I'm about 150. So my take on it, and I will be doing a video once I finish this very long series of proving beyond a shadow of doubt. Someone needed to do this video and prove without a shadow of a doubt, and it had to be me. But once I've done that, I'll be doing a video on who Jesus was and who his father was. And it's not who you think it was. Whether or not you want to believe that, it's up to you. But that's my findings on it. Bono Vox has wrote, "Stop watching Netflix so much." See, not one person. See, this is why I've got 253 people listening, because I'm giving evidence and not one person can tell me where I'm wrong. This isn't my first rodeo. This isn't my first live chat. Go listen to my live chats on my YouTube channel. You can go listen to them all. And I do the same thing, and I say, just point me to one thing that I've got wrong. One thing, that's what I'm asking, one thing where there's evidence that you can prove that I'm wrong. And no one does. That's why I sound big-headed. But thank you, Leah. I don't mean to sound bigger. Thank you, Leah. Cameron's wrote, "Man's scared of the truth." Again, another person, Cameron, there that can't articulate an argument with me. And when I say an argument, putting evidence across. Cameron, can you? Because otherwise you wouldn't have wrote "man's scared of the truth." Meaning me, I'm guessing. TikTok has wrote that same thing. Go tell your mum this, which I have done. Mark, sorry, did Alien do? Yes, they do. I'm not going to read out the swear word there. Dizzy has wrote, Mark has wrote, did aliens, again, repeating the same thing. This is live, it's just silly people write crap, then I read it all out. And that's why I'm behind. Linda's wrote, this is just what the devil wants you to think. Yes, the devil sat there and wrote 2 million tablets. The first ever language ever that we could write. It took him 3,000 years to write these tablets in cuneiform Sumerian language. Buried them, carved statues of the same people that the devil then wanted you to believe was in the tablets, made temples for these people that he wrote in these tablets, made cylinder seals for these temples, for these characters that he wrote in these 2 million tablets. Yes, the devil's got too much time on his hands, in my opinion. Frank has wrote proof. Tell you what, Frank, go watch my YouTube video. Sorry, it scrolled to the bottom there. Go watch my YouTube video, only 25 minutes. Come back, tell me where I'm wrong. And then when you realise there's more, because it says there's more, you can go watch the rest of it, hours worth. So I cover everything. Not just the flood, not just the creation, not just the 6 days of creation, not just man being created. I'm going through it all. But no one's gonna ever. That's great. Always be the smartest in the room. I wouldn't have done the videos if I thought someone was ever going to debunk me. And I've done 1,000 odd videos on TikTok and no one's ever debunked me. They say things like, "Oh, you're numpty," this kind of rubbish. But not one person has actually come out with a sensible argument where I could say, "Wow, you know what? You've got me on that." Akalu has wrote, "How am I able to fly around in a Navy aircraft?" Propulsion, aerodynamics. I don't get what you're trying to say. Sorry, I'm not sure where you're going with that one. Johnny's wrote, Liebner has wrote, "I'll debunk you." No problem at all. Feel free to. But you have to give evidence. Just evidence. That's all we need. Not, there's an invisible man with a beard or anything like that. Just evidence. So Lieber's pinned that up there. Sorry. Johnny's wrote, "Rabbit hole research, you're finding the wrong info and passing it on as facts." Again, this is why I've got 300 people listening to me, because I give the facts, but no one can tell me where I'm wrong. You come out with this stuff, "Oh, you're giving wrong information." Tell me where I'm wrong. The Sage Oracle's given me some rainbows. Thank you, bless you. I don't ask for much. I just one bit of information where I've got it wrong. Just one. Bruce has wrote, pyramid is just a tomb for the dead. Unfortunately, Bruce, you fell for the mainstream narrative. Now, if you watch my videos, and you're going to say, "I don't want to watch your videos." Thank you, Jess. You'll find that there was a foot found in one pyramid and a body, not mummified, bear that in mind, a body that was found in another pyramid that was, according to the people that found it, not only would it have been the first first body in a pyramid ever, the only one, it was also the first body they'd found in modern times from Egypt. So in other words, this was so priceless, they lost it. They lost the body. You know why? Because it wasn't actually who they said it was that belonged to the pyramid. So they said, "Oh, we've lost it," and it's gone, and that's the end of it. So you'll find that a tomb, you obviously have no idea, Bruce, what a tomb is. You need, for a tomb, you need these, what they call magic pillars, which you probably have no idea because you just watched mainstream and thought that you're trying to debunk me. They have magic pillars that keep out bad spirits, and they have certain writing on them, etc. Pyramids don't have that, Bruce. Feel free to follow and learn, or go and watch mainstream and listen to their rubbish. Watch my videos. I debunk mainstream all the time, and no one's come back and said that I'm wrong. Waitie's wrote, are there aliens that kill people? Obviously, there are different types, right? Yes. Depends on who you listen to, will dictate on whether or not they're good. So if you go by the latest disclosure effort by Dr. Greer, I don't know if you saw it recently, you'll hear that he's saying, or one of the panel was saying, that they're all kind aliens. Then you listen to some of the other whistleblowers that say no, they take people, they use people, they have to come back and get clothes off of the secret military for the people that they've took to do their work for them, etc., etc. So I think basically there are bad ones out there that try not to let themselves known that they're doing bad. That's why people like Dr. Greer would believe that they're good, because they could have killed us all years ago. But because there's that Galactic Federation, or Council of Aliens, whatever you want to call it, that have prohibited and had put a quarantine around Earth, the bad ones just couldn't come in and take over straight away or do whatever they wanted. So they do it behind closed curtains, and millions of people go missing, and some of those people end up working for these aliens on other planets, which is not nice, as well as being food as well, apparently. Ran Wars, Osiris is still alive. So just for people that don't know who Osiris is, so you've got Marduk, which was Amun-Ra before the flood, Ra after the flood. Then you've got some of his offspring, Nut, and so on. And then a bit further down, you've got Set, Isis, and Osiris. So they're technically all related. So Osiris got chopped up, long story short, by Set. And so Ranwar is saying Osiris is still alive. Now, in every translation, even the Sumerian translation, did you know that, Ran? There's a Sumerian version of what actually happened, and it's the closest to what actually happened, because you'll find that the Egyptian version, there's 3 different versions to that written on walls, etc. That's just ever so slightly different. So if you go back to the original one, which would have been Sumerian, you'll find that Osiris definitely did die. So Osiris's son, even though, long story, was Horus, even though he'd already passed. Long story. So Ran War, the person that wrote Osiris is still alive, please could you give me evidence? Sorry, I do this because people watch my videos because they want evidence. Osiris, tell me the evidence that Osiris is still alive. Everybody, Ran War is going to give us the evidence that Osiris, that I've just mentioned, is actually not chopped up, or if he is chopped up, he's come back as a, I don't know what. I'm looking forward to Ran War's evidence on showing that Osiris is still alive. That would be amazing. If you haven't got the evidence, Ran War, why not follow me, start learning some stuff instead of always pretending that you know stuff that you might not. Q Scott has wrote, they didn't create the carbon-based people, just the ones that are not natural to this planet. So that's not right. Okay. So Q Scott's technically right in some aspects. So humans have been here for at least a million years. Homo sapiens are the new species. These were the modern man. So Q Scott wrote, they didn't create the carbon-based people. Technically, humans that's been here for a million years are carbon-based. I mean, we're a carbon-based life form. So they genetically modified the hominids, which were a carbon-based life form, and upgraded them so that we ended up being a Homo sapien. And then later on, when they bred with them, we had the Homo sapien sapien, the smarter ones from the first one. So we sort of upgraded again, only because of genetics from the Anunnaki physically breeding with us. Aklula has wrote, how am I able to... I don't know how you're going to fly around in a Navy aircraft, just steal the keys, I guess. Make sure it's filled up with unleaded. Healing Vibes is right, aliens are fallen angels in capitals thrown to Earth. That's correct. However, incorrect. So the fallen angels were the Ajiji. Again, watch my watch my video. I know it's that particular part's probably on the Patreon, that the hours long of going through everything. But I wow, I prove it, that it's the Ajiji, which were aliens. So technically, you're right on that part. They weren't thrown to Earth; they came down. In fact, they descended. If you know your Bible, you'll find that they descended to Mount Sinai. If you know your Bible. So yeah, they descended there, and then they stole human women, and they set up a little fortress there, fortress of solitude, with loads of them, and the Anunnaki had fights with them. So eventually, they allowed the Ajiji, the fallen angels, to. And we've got to remember the word angel is a Hebrew word which came on way later than Sumerians. So when you actually do the homework, thank you, Tree. You'll find that. Thank you for the rose. You'll find that the word angel is messenger. That was from the Greek word, which when you go back to the Sumerians, they did actually use the word messenger. So it's yeah. Johnny's. Thank you, Space Guru. Johnny's wrote, if I change my profile picture, can you look at what I found in Antarctica? I'll tell you what, I'll follow you, and then if you want to follow me, oh, it says you're requested private, then I could have, we could have chatted. I'd love to have seen what you have. Perils wrote, in Islam, they say there is just supernatural beings called jinn. That as far as my research, and I did a 3-hour documentary on my Patreon page called Everything You Need to Know About Spirits. There's about 5 or 10 minutes on TikTok, which no one's actually said. No one's replied on my TikTok video saying that's a load of crap. So I'm guessing that my research is very sound. But yes, my research, if you watch that 3-hour documentary or listen to me now, is that there was at least two. I'm only aware of 2, so that's why I say at least 2 species that were created at the start of the universe. One would have been the light energy beings that we end up, joining with when we're in the womb. As you know from Islam, 3 to 4 months you get your soul. That's what it is. That's a light energy being that joins with us. Thank you, Frodo, for the hat. I like that. So there was them, the light energy beings, and what was actually originally called the dark or night. So I cover all of that. I'm just paraphrasing here very quickly, but yeah, because there's 99 more messages. This is live, everybody. But yes, you're right. There is we now call it, or the Arabs used to actually call them the jinns. Some people call them demons now, because obviously demon you can use for anything. But so there are bad spirits. When I say bad, I'm always careful on saying that, because to them they're not bad. Possessing a human isn't a bad thing. That's what they do. It's like a flea sucking blood from your head. Is it bad? Is it doing it as an evil intent? Not really. It's doing it because it does it. Sorry, it scrolled right to the bottom. I'm guessing the moderator blocked someone. So, and again, it scrolled right back to the bottom. So I've gone back to the top now. So this is live. So I'm nearer to your questions, but I've missed a whole chunk, not because of me, but because of the way TikTok works, I'm afraid. So the top one I can read now is a couple of people chatting to each other. Hammers 17's right. I'm off to watch your video. Thank you. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. A couple of people chatting to each other still. Obviously I've missed chunks now, unfortunately. Hannah's wrote, there is X's. I'm not sure what that's referring to because I missed the chunk. Sorry. Cameron said they say that the most out of range things and expect a detailed, perfect response. I'm guessing that's me saying the most out of range things. Well, I kind of point to the evidence, and it's up to someone else to tell me where I've gone wrong, instead of just saying you're wrong. Jack Fishdrum has wrote, was Thoth human? No, Thoth was one of the Anunnakis, originally called Ningazida. and then later on was named Hermes, and then in Rome was named something else I can't remember off the top of my head, forgive me. Mr. D. Head has wrote Samaritan from Rome. I've missed a huge chunk, so I don't know if that's talking about something else. Are you referring to the Sumerians? Sumerians weren't from Rome. Sumerians were from a place called Sumer, SH, but now we call it Sumer, but it actually had a H originally. Same as Iraq was Uruk, and we've ended up calling it Iraq. And that's again in the ancient tablets. Valeria, forgive me if I pronounce that wrong. Humans give humans a bad rep. We do. However, when you read the exploits of the Anunnaki, our gods, if you want to call them that, which is what their race name is, says it everywhere. In the ancient tablets, it says it everywhere, and in fact, even the Bible says their race name over and over. So yeah, they were pretty bad as well. So I think we've inherited a lot of their sick, and I say sick because obviously, when you look at our elites who's trying to lower the age of consent to basically babies, they're sick. They need to be got rid of quick. And the Anunnakis, not saying that they were that bad, but they would breed with, and they did. Enlil did go with a younger person that wasn't of age. So they're not, these gods. They're just as sick, really. Ethan's wrote Jesus was the first zombie. That's an interesting point. Let me think on that for a sec. Technically, he rose from the dead, so I guess that's a really clever point. Give me a sec. Let me try and work that out. I'm just trying to think if there's anyone before that. I'd need to think on that. That's a good point. Go number 2 in the class for that. It's an interesting point. Freddie's wrote Nu O Kai Anunnaki is Polynesian for village of Kai, but obviously the ancient Sumerians had it that used the name Anunnaki before Polynesian even was populated, so we have to go with the older texts before Polynesian came along. Frodo has wrote, "Hey mate, hi Frodo. I won't leave you, Frodo." Sorry, couldn't help it. Travis Shall has wrote, "Nice to know that I'm not the only one who's crazy." Yes, I know. Whoever wrote those 2 million tablets, damn them to hell. Damn them to hell. I feel like it was Planet of the Apes. June X has wrote, so the Anunnaki, thank you, Winnie, the Anunnaki that probably built the Vatican was the Ajiji. Yes, more than likely, or I would have probably said the offspring, to be fair with you. I would have said, because the Ajiji were young and staying, when they first came here 450,000 years ago, knowing that the elder people, such as Enlil, Enki, etc., all aged, almost twice as fast, I'm pretty sure the Ajiji, once they stayed with their wives, once they taught humans what they needed to teach them, I can't imagine them wanting to lose more of their life here on Earth. They might have, but I would have more than likely said the offspring off of the Anunnaki and humans are the ones that probably set up, in other words, the bloodline, I would have probably said were the ones that set up the Vatican. But yeah, so good point, but I just can't see it. Thank you, though. Frodo's wrote, I think they edited us. They did. We do have that fused chromosome, which more than likely was done in a laboratory. I mean, literally, they write that they need a bowl and all this kind of stuff. So yeah. Pamela's wrote, what about giants? So the giants were the offspring off of the Anunnaki and humans when they bred, but not all of them. Some of them had gigantism, which made them bigger than their fathers, which were 8 to 12 foot tall in the first place. So that's when we get the giants. And of course, we've got the evidence, or did have evidence, many evidences of giant skeletons, etc. But when you realise that who ends up with those giant skeletons, it's pretty much the Rockefellers Smithsonian, which is run by the Rockefellers, and even museums, pretty much all museums now are run by the Rockefellers. And if you don't believe me, just go do your research. I've pointed it out many a times. The British Museum is actually also known as the Rockefeller Museum. How sad is that? The British Museum is known as the Rockefeller Museum, which clearly means there's they have a vested interest in what gets shown out there. So, that's why they had that court case, Smithsonian, back in 1902, about destroying giant skeletons. Raggies wrote, "We are totally hybrids from alien DNA and apes." I wouldn't have said apes, I would have said hominids. Literally the description of them would have been more than likely a Neanderthal. Mr. D. Head has wrote, "How old is Isis?" If you're on about the Egyptian Isis, I can't tell you how long she lived for. She was an offspring off of Anunnaki and human, because Ra's wife was a human wife. She was actually a scribe, and that's how they met. It wasn't Tinder or anything like that, and I don't think they had Grindr back then either, or whatever the other things are called. So they met. She was a scribe, and they married, and that's the first woman that he married, from what I understand. And they moved to Egypt and basically set up their own thing in Egypt, which is why Egypt's different from Sumerian. Perils wrote, "Osiris is depicted in the Abrahamic religions too." More than likely, I can't. When it comes to religion, I try and avoid it, simply because it's obviously a religion is a man-made construct, from what my research shows. So I always try and go back to the original, where there was no religion. Frodo's wrote, the editor's missing link. Yes, that's true. That's why that's why there is a missing link, because they did generally do that. Spot on. Lily's wrote, "I think aliens themselves introduced us to God." Well, actually, if you read the tablets that predate the Bible, you'll find that Enki told Noah about the flood. I mean, the actual tablets in the British Museum. The actual curator of the British Museum reads out the tablet and starts with Enki tells Zudra, which was Noah's name. So we've got that. Then we've also got the cuneiform siphon, which literally says that Enki teaches the other Anunnaki for the first 6 days, and then says, "Let's rest on the 7th." So the gods were the Anunnaki race. That was their name. Just like us, we're human. We go to another planet, we're going to be known as human. Thousands of years later, they'll be worshipping humans, and they'll attribute us to gods. But they would use the word human as God, just like we call gods, because the Anunnaki's race name was gods. It's written absolutely everywhere. And goddesses. It's written absolutely everywhere. Bub has wrote, I'm guessing that's the Anunnaki created man to mine for gold. Correct. Yeah, you've obviously done some research as well. Casey Cooper has wrote, "Humans are most likely the aliens who came from another place other than Earth." I hear what you're saying, but we do actually have the tablets, 2 million tablets. We've got all the evidence pointing to exactly what the tablets say is correct. Carving the statues, we've got absolutely everything. So we don't really need to look anywhere else. We don't need to look at another planet or anything. Sorry, scroll to the bottom again. I don't know if a moderator blocked someone. So now I've scrolled all the way to the top. Again, I've now missed a huge chunk, but it is nearer probably to the later questions. Forgive me if I've missed anything. It's not intentional. So the top one I can now read is Marty66. "There's more evidence of aliens on Earth than Jesus performing magic tricks in Galilee." With Doctor Who. Sorry, couldn't help that with the old Gallifrey. There's more evidence of aliens. Yeah, you're spot on. I know it's the same as the Bible. You take the Bible away, what have you got? Absolutely nothing. What any good for? Absolutely nothing. But you take the 2 million tablets away, and at the same time, you've still got cuneiform tablets. Sumerian seals, carvings, buildings that we can't even reproduce today, and so on. So yeah, you're spot on. I Rebel has wrote, tell me about it. How do you know your research is legitimate? Like, how can you authenticate your source? So the translations are done by many different people. So it's not just one person. It's not Zachariah Sitchin translating it. These are done over... Sorry, it scrolled all the way to the bottom. Moderator muted someone. Someone's obviously getting angry at me. It happens when I bet you're having fun. Who's got to swear next to Our True History? That's probably what's so. So yeah, these translations have been done for the last 200 years. So basically, I look at all the... Thank you, Winnie. I look at all the translations. I don't just look at one person's translations. And if, in fact, in my Patreon video, which is doing... I do loads of videos on the Patreon, but the one that's covering... the Anunnaki being definitely the God and not an almighty being. Because the way I work, I like to contradict myself, because then I get to the answer. I can't just go blindly and say, yeah, okay, that's right. So I look for the opposite, and then argue between myself which one's right, and then you'll see the evidence come out that hopefully I'm right, and no one so far has told me I'm wrong. So there are researchers out there that have translated things, in my opinion, wrong, and then I go with my version of other people's translations because it makes more sense, and then I point out why, etc. Thank you, Jane. So yeah, I do my homework to make sure that the sources are legit, and seeing as no one's ever debunked me, I think I do a fairly good job on it. I do debunk other researchers. I don't want to. It's not what I want to do. I don't like pointing out their names or anything. It's just not nice. But where other researchers have said things, I have to point out that they're wrong. So because it makes me look like I'm wrong if I don't point out they're wrong. So yeah. Perils wrote, I think Jesus was another person that meditated and acquired wisdom. I think there was a person called Jesus from my research, and I think he had a special father. That's all I'm saying. I will do a video and give my results on that, just like I did with Atlantis and all these other things that no one's... Again, I keep saying it, don't I? Do sound like a broken record, but I'm proud of my research. Sorry, Rebecca's wrote God the Father. Yes, God the Father, which was Mao, which was Enki. Yeah, God the Father created man. Sorry, scroll to the bottom. Obviously, got a lot of religious people that may be swearing instead of actually giving me evidence of where I'm wrong, because no one does that. It's quite amazing. Peril wrote. It was Rebecca wrote, God the Father, it scrolled all the way to the bottom, created man from earth, clay, and breathed life into us. So Rebecca, if I told you that there's, and don't take this the wrong way, but if I told you I can point you to the tablets that predate the Bible by thousands of years, that actually has a bit where Enki is talking to his half-sister about breaking off clay because they need that to make the bowl, what would you say to that? And then, if you carry on reading those same translations of these ancient tablets that predate the Bible, and it talks about that they created about 6 or 7 humans and each one was deformed, and then finally got the right one that actually wasn't deformed, and they could actually use that to mine for gold in the Abzu, and then they created 7 more, or 6 more males and 7 females, in other words, 7 of each. What would you say to that if that talks about clay and Enki being the great lord? Also mentions that. And also Enki's a god. Predates the Bible, Enki's a god. In fact, all the Anunnaki are classed as gods. You know why? Because that's their race name. So what would you say to that? Would you still say that the Bible with 1,200 pages with 144 inconsistencies is more right than what it copied? And I proved that copies. Go watch my video on YouTube. I prove it. That it copied the 2 million tablets. I say 2 million. It didn't copy all 2 million. Otherwise, there'd be more than 2 million pages of the Bible. It copied some of the older tablets. So maybe when you say God the Father, which was Enki, created man from earth clay, he actually did use a clay bowl. They needed to. Didn't actually breathe life into us, genetically modified the hominid that was there. We've actually got the tablets that's literally come up with the idea where his mum suggested to him that you could create a creature to do the mining here on Earth, to work in the mines and carry the baskets. We've actually got the tablet that predates the Bible for that. Don't hate me, Rebecca. I'm just pointing that out to you. Obviously, if you still want to believe in the 1,200 pages that copy the older text, that's fine, not a problem. Gary Kings wrote, not sure they created humans, but they and others have influenced our DNA in some way. Again, we've got the oldest tablets, and so the first ever language that wrote about creating a species. You've got to think about this. Thousands of years ago, the first people that could actually write any kind of fully fledged language, no other language whatsoever, it's just full alphabet, full everything, there's no half measures, suddenly appeared. We've got full language that suddenly appeared, and the first thing they talk about is this a group of gods that create humans to mine for gold in the Abzu. Really? I'd go with that any day of the week. Joseph wrote, the first Adamu I made with my hands, said Iris, I believe. Well, Adamu was the first one over in the Abzu, which was the first one that came out without being deformed. Obviously, you put Iris, I'm guessing you mean Isis. Isis came along 430,000 years later. So, she wouldn't have been... Yeah, she wouldn't have been creating any humans. Jamie's right, I believe they did. Who else did create us? Correct. Yeah. Marta's wrote, all right, where's your paper? Tell you what, go watch my video. I might still be on by the time you come back. It's only 25 minutes. Come back. So go to YouTube. No one's going to do this. They don't do this because once they go there and they realise that I'm right, they won't bother coming back. But still, feel free to... I feel like a broken record. Thank you, Bonnie. So Marta, please go to my YouTube video. I feel like Willy Wonka, you know, when he's like, please don't stop eating the chocolate. Please don't. You know, and he knows they're going to do it. So anyway, go to YouTube, type in Our True History. Thank you, Little Red. Look for the third video back on the latest videos, and it will basically show you a picture of a book. Watch that for 25 minutes. It basically shows the evidence and the papers and everything you ever need to know about that compared to the Bible. If you're interested in the rest of it, where it talks about, you know, the floods and all of these spaceships and everything else that the Anunnaki had that the Bible talked about, and they did. The Bible actually even mentioned some of the craft that the Anunnaki flew in, believe it or not. If you're interested in the rest of it, because once you realise that I'm kind of right, without sounding rude, feel free to go onto my Patreon page and knock yourself out. So much stuff there, you'll be happy as a sandboy. What was that from? It was something years ago, wasn't it? Happy as a sandboy. I don't know wherever that come from. Hopefully it's not a bad word now, thinking about it. Maybe it was. I don't know. Forgive me if it's... Wow. Yeah, sorry. I digress. But yeah, that was weird. I suddenly recalled that old saying. I Am Truth has wrote, yes, there was dragons. Ones on top of Africa. You can still see it. I'm guessing you're saying that there was a petrified dragon on a mountain, maybe, is what you're probably saying. I don't know what you're saying, so I can't argue or debate with you on that until I get sort of what you're actually saying. Sorry, I'm just reading the people chatting to each other. Jacqueline's wrote, if there evidence of our DNA strands being capped off to shorten our lifespans? Yes, there is. There is evidence of that, apparently. So just look it up. Type in. Well, even the tablets actually talk about it. they talk about that before the flood there was longevity of life for us humans, and then after the flood they capped us to 120 years, which the Bible says as well, but people don't sort of grasp that side of it. Wu has wrote, when I was an atheist, I believed in everything that came my way, with laughing faces. You don't have to be an atheist, you just have to use a bit of common sense. When you've got 2 million tablets that the Bible copied from, you don't have to be an atheist. Bernice has wrote, when mankind makes something, they put their name on it, like Gucci. So the creator was first. I'm guessing you're saying the creator was first. The creator, I'm guessing you're referring to sort of the 6 days that the Bible doesn't even get the right day on what day. You know that they talk about God created man on the 6th, but also they say on another Bible, I think it was the 3rd. So they can't even get that right. But if you watch my video on my YouTube channel, within that 25 minutes, I show you the actual evidence of the 6 days of creation by the Anunnaki. If you're interested, probably not. Cameron's wrote, if there was a modern God, he'd have to arrive with his snapback backwards, sagging his pants and red bottom. I'm guessing that means if there was a modern God. Well, actually, I do identify as a God. I have done for probably 25, 30 years at least. Dark Liquid wrote, hello Dark Liquid, this is live everybody, I'm reading out everyone's singles question. Far From Home has wrote, thoughts on the Trinity and the ground of being that sustains beings. Excuse me. So I'm guessing you're referring to the Holy Trinity. So if you know anything about religion, you'll find that the highest priests actually admit they don't actually know what the Holy Trinity is. And if you work out and do your research, you'll find that Holy Trinity actually came in way later down the line in the Bibles, and that's because they couldn't. They needed a way to actually justify the different gods, because when you look at Genesis 1:26, when it's plural, God created, or man was created in their image, in their likeness. So you'll find that the Holy Trinity was added to try and justify the original Bibles, the Genesis, where it actually was correct, where it was talking about plural gods. So that's all that the Holy Trinity is. And regarding the next bit of the that sustains beings, the ground of being that sustains beings, I'm not sure what that is. I'll be honest, I don't know what that's referring to. Sorry. Jiff, is it? As wrote, aliens did create humans and continued our evolution in our DNA. Yeah, there's a lot of. I mean, there's people out there. If you watch Ancient Aliens, not that I try and ever use that as a reference, but I accidentally caught a bit of it the other day. And although I've watched it, there's some things that I don't agree with on that. But anyway, I caught another bit of it where they was talking about the sequences in our DNA, that there's certain strands of numbers that can only be done X, Y, Z. Therefore, there's a message in our DNA, blah, blah, blah. I don't really subscribe to that. I don't want to do a video explaining why, because it makes it look like, because Ancient Aliens, they actually follow me and I chat to them. So, and I chat to some of the people that's been on Ancient Aliens. So I don't want to knock their program, but if you believe that they're right with this, the sequences in the DNA that was left here as a way for us to know in the future that we was genetically changed, then fine. But I don't subscribe to that particular part of it. I Am Truth White has wrote, Anunnaki equals pagans. I wouldn't have said that, because technically by the time you got the pagans, the Anunnaki pretty much would have been long gone. You would have had offspring off of the Anunnaki, but not Anunnaki themselves, not gods. But you would have had the hybrids, the demigods, whatever you want to call them. Now, could they have been pagans? Possibly. I haven't actually looked into that, but it wouldn't have been the Anunnaki. But the offsprings, it might have been. Martyrs wrote, in which journal was your research published? So someone's trying to make it sound like that I have to publish something in order for me to be correct. So, Marta, if I point, thank you, Space Guru, if I point out where published research, where I prove that they're wrong, all you have to do is just watch some of my videos where they keep getting the dates wrong all the time. Just, in fact, I think 4 videos back, I again proved that they had the dates wrong. Elmo's wrote, "You are God." Ah, thank you, Elmo. But yeah, so I prove all the time where published researchers get it wrong. So does that make them more right than me because they've published it even though they're wrong and they admit they're wrong? That's the thing. This is why I can do these videos, because where it comes up and they say, "Oh, humans are older than we thought," or "Oh, this XYZ," or "the pyramids wasn't tombs," and da 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 da. All the things where they get it wrong. Later on, they actually, "Oh, mummies are older. They're by 1,000 years than what we actually thought," and so on. Where the evidence comes up and they put that, peer reviewed again, that they've actually got it wrong. Who would you rather listen to? Them that keep getting it wrong, or one person that's never got it wrong? I would probably go with me all the time. So I don't have to publish papers, because when you look at the people that have published papers, and of course you remember that the universities that they work for are funded by the Rockefellers, who, if you know anything about the Rockefellers, you know that they will not. Thank you, April J. Hayes, and Space Guru. But yeah, once you know about the Rockefellers, you know. Well, I've watched my videos. I actually show where the debunkers of, for example, Zecharia Sitchin, and I follow them back to where they used to work. And you know what? They worked for the Rockefellers. And then I debunk those debunkers. Big time. I do, honestly, I do. So, yeah, I'd go with me any day of the week. Buckleons has wrote, "We are an experiment." Technically, we're not. An experiment would have been done for, to see what happens. They actually needed us for a reason, so we was a product. So not an experiment. They did create us to mine. We've got the tablets that say they wanted us to carry their baskets for them, which shows you that they did have a crushing machine for the gold, the ore to go down into the thing, but someone still had to bring the gold out and the ore out of the mine shafts. God's Gift has wrote, "We are aliens," technically part alien. Cassandra has wrote, "Once your eyes are opened," with a little alien face. Susan's wrote, "Who created the aliens?" Chemicals, Susan. You can, if you look up now, feel free to look it up. Just go onto Google and you'll say Google, but it goes to a peer reviewed, and according to people like Marta, who said that I have to have a peer reviewed piece of paper, they actually show you that you can now create life with 5 different chemicals. So once you can create life with chemicals, that negates the need for who. Sorry if you don't like the answer to that, but it's true. Chemicals do create life now, or have done forever. But obviously people don't want to hear that. Sorry, just it scrolled all the way to the bottom. Just going back to where I was. This is live, everybody. Cameron's wrote, "A computer." I'm not sure what that's referring to. Jacqueline's wrote, "Do we have the ability to trace our blood back to actual stars, starseeds?" No. Well, RH negative is from my research. Again, watch my videos if you want to know more on it. But my research takes me to the Anunnaki having RH negative blood, and then when they bred, because it wasn't here with the first Homo sapiens. It only came with the Homo sapiens sapiens, which was the Middle East, 100,000 years ago, and that's when the first white people turned up in the Middle East, because the Anunnaki bred with the humans that they'd created 200,000 years before. So the only blood type that I'm aware of that would be any genetics directly from an alien would be the RH negative. Indigo's wrote, "I love being an alien." Vivian's wrote, I agree. I'm not sure what that was. Hopefully it was something I said. Cassandra's wrote, other aliens laugh out loud. Not sure what that's referring to, sorry. Wu has wrote, we are an experiment by God, and my goddess, did we disappoint? Yeah, I mean, we wasn't actually an experiment, but yeah. Woody's wrote, total craziness. Again, for those 355 people that's listening to me, I give evidence and I point you to the evidence. Whereas people that come on and say things like total craziness will never give me, our true history. You made a point on da 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 da. Actually, if you look at this, it's, and it contradicts your research, our true history. No one does that. No one does that. Mr. D. Head wrote, Moses was the last we found the pyramids in 1840. Moses was the last we found the pyramids in 1840. I'm not sure what that's referring to. I'm a bit confused on the Moses and the pyramid part of that. Sorry. I Am the Truth has wrote, we never went to the moons. Certainly in the early missions, I don't believe we did. I believe that we may have done in one or two of the later missions. Obviously, they've got NASA, or not NASA, but the secret military's got craft that can go to the moon and have done, but not, the Apollo missions were early on ones, I believe, were fake. Frodo's wrote, well, didn't know that about fused chromosomes. Yeah, we have. Number 23 and number 24 are fused. And if you actually look up, you'll find that no primates and no hominids ever had fused chromosomes. So in other words, you can probably guess, either a man with a beard genetically modified us, or a man with a beard genetically modified us. And I say that because the Anunnaki actually also had beards and white hair, just like the image of God, which is kind of weird because why not say it's the Anunnaki? It's too easy, isn't it? When you've got the image of God as an Anunnaki, and the Anunnaki predates the Bible and the images of what we would say as an almighty being, when it matches them, and we've got the carvings of them, so we know it matches. Anyway, Corey's wrote, how do I know if I'm an alien? What hybrid you mean? From what I understand, people that are hybrids that have been taken up didn't know they were hybrids until after they were taken back up and then dropped back down again, and they realised then that they are hybrids. So there's a possibility you may not know. Normally, from what I understand, the proper modern hybrids, they have the ability to telepathically read your mind and to kind of make you do things. Perils wrote, we need to see ourselves beyond our physical self to find the truth. Sprite has wrote, I have always felt that we were the aliens. I mean, part aliens, technically. User 266 has wrote, you can research that. Who wrote the research material? Probably man, so shut up. So you're saying that the 2 million tablets were written by man, which they were. They were scribes for the Anunnaki, which they write about. So when you've got carvings, buildings that we can't recreate today, when you're telling me to shut up, explain how the buildings that we can't recreate today were done back then, thousands and thousands of years ago. In fact, hunter-gatherer times. You can't. So you have to go with these tablets. And of course, the tablets also talk about things that we didn't even know about then. The asteroid belt, user 266. How did the tablets talk about the asteroid belt? And the ice on the moon, ice on Mars, on the North and South Pole. How did it know that back then, these tablets? You're not going to be able to answer. I win. Scrolling on, user 3 has wrote, so how do you think they feel about all these people playing with our genetics now? Thank you, Winnie. how do you think the Anunnaki would feel? My opinion on what the Anunnaki would feel is I would suspect they would be keeping a beady eye on us, because if we're like them and we can backstab and kill each other and whatever else that they do, and they did, they used to have massive wars on their home planet. So yeah, I would imagine they would be very wary of us now, very wary. I mean, I think they'd be keeping one eye certainly placed on us. Perils wrote, I think we're placing too much emphasis on the physical self. Well, the thing is, if you do follow my research, the only thing that we have that's external to our physical self is a light energy being that joins with us and then leaves us. And that's not me saying that, that's clairvoyance, mediums, spiritualists, regression, past life regression as well, reincarnation. I've looked at it a lot. I don't come up with these conclusions for fun. I make sure before I say something, I make sure that there is no way someone's going to be able to say to me I'm wrong. So I think we don't actually have our own non-physical being. I think we are just what we are, but a light energy being joins with us, which will be classed as our spirit, our soul, whatever you want to call it, and then leaves our body when we die, and it goes round again in someone else, and so on and so on. John Coulson has wrote, did they build a pyramid? Bottom line is they did. They then taught what they called the builders the techniques to go and build buildings for them, and down the line those builders became masons. You can probably guess what happened after that. Fat Boods has wrote, we are the apes aliens experimented on. Sorry, we could be the apes aliens experimented on. Well, we're the finished version of what they created. Cassandra wrote, who was Moses in the Bible? Well, Moses in the Bible was Moses, but if you're talking about who was Moses in Sumerian times, then I've done a video on my Patreon page. Sorry to point you to it. It's just I go through it and read out all the ancient tablets and explain how Moses was told to go by Enki over to Egypt when the plagues of Egypt actually happened. It was actually the plagues of Israel, believe it or not, but people died in Israel, and it was written about in Egypt because they set droughts. It's all written in tablets. I cover all of this. It makes so much sense. And I think I'm probably the only person that's actually, again, another one where I sound big-headed, but I am the only person that I've ever come across that's actually worked out that the tablets actually talk about the plagues, 10 plagues of Egypt, or whatever it was. Off the top of my head, I'm trying to be quick, but it's actually all done on my Patreon video called I can't remember what it's called, something like Who Was Moses. Thank you, Guy, on TikTok, for the lightnings. But so I cover it all, and basically in a nutshell, his name's there. I can't remember it off the top of my head. I think you'll find it's probably Atrahasis, but I think it was Atrahasis. Anyway, so basically Enlil does 7 or 10 or whatever, I can't remember off the top of my head, different things. One of them was blocking off the waters so that, thank you, Julian, so that the people would suffer, the Israelites, or, well, actually they were called Enulites, but of course down the line people change things. He was told to go over and do deals with the Egyptians. Long story, because Enki was trying to help. Go watch that video. So I read it all out, and once you see I break it down, it makes so much sense. Because once the flood, the drought happened over in Israel, all the animals ended up going to the biggest water source, which was the Nile. So of course you end up with these plagues. But of course everyone says, "Oh, it's a plague of Egypt." It wasn't. We've actually got the texts, but no one, other than myself, has actually worked out that relates to the Israel issues, or that they had at that time. Same problems, the same plagues would have. In fact, there was even he even names a virus that he sets upon people. So it's not just the locusts and the frogs and whatever else. It's actually the boils and stuff that was come up because Enlil did actually set off a plague. It's written in the ancient tablets. It's quite amazing. And that's, I'm very proud of that research because no one else has ever put that down to that, but it makes so much sense. Sorry if I sound big-headed, but when you find so many new things out and no one says you're wrong, it's pretty impressive and makes me big-headed. Sorry, it scrolled all the way to the bottom. This is live, by the way, everybody. I'm reading everyone's questions. Just scrolling down. Star seeds, I agree. Thank you, Winnie. Who built the pyramids? I'm just going to have a quick drink. Right, okay, nearly there. Right, user 266 is right. Aliens didn't create man, bro. You need serious help. Again, just tell me where I'm wrong. No one does. That's why people follow me and watch my Patreon videos. No one can tell me what I'm wrong. They'll just say I need help or crazy or BS and all that stuff. Not one person comes back and says, actually, you're wrong on this account and explain it, because they can't. Jacqueline's wrote Rothschild's bloodline aliens. Possibly. Certainly not the Rockefellers, because, John Rockefeller luckily made money out of oil, which was a more modern thing. Petrol. But the Rothschilds as a possibility. I'll be honest, I haven't looked into them in that degree of their lineage. So that's why I say it's a possibility. There's probably other people out there that have looked into their lineage and we'll be able to tell you more on that. Sorry, so I don't actually know the answer. I haven't looked into them in that way. That really tall guys wrote, yeah, it would cause mass hysteria. I'm not sure if that was something I'd said, sorry. Cameron's wrote, we are finally looking at the Titanic, which is super important. I'm not sure why it's super important. I'd love to know why. Obviously it's sad, but I don't know what the importance is. If you let me know, that'd be cool. Run from the Livings wrote, almost like they have genetic attachments to the stuff in the museum. Trying to remember what I said for that. Sorry. It sounds cool, whatever you wrote, but I don't remember what I was talking about at that point. Sorry. Claire's wrote, I've been saying this for years. I'm guessing everything that I've waffled on about, hopefully. Luckily we've got the internet now, luckily they have actually put up the translations of these tablets. Sherry's wrote, hi boss, I fell asleep. Hold the chat, I'm muting in a minute. Okay, alright, I'm just going to keep my finger on the scroll screen. Sherry's doing a grand job, I'm sure, some is Winnie, and whoever else is blocking people that probably don't like what I'm saying. I don't mind them, not agreeing with me, but they just can't seem to articulate a formulated response. They just seem to be rude. Far from here. I said far from home earlier. Maybe I was thinking Spider-Man. No way he gets through all these comments. I try my best. I really do. Thank you, Sherry. Kerry's wrote Egyptian pharaohs, Anunnaki. Ra, and the rest of them, no, from my research. Now, Akhenaten, thank you, Julian. Forgive me if I pronounce that wrong. I'm terrible at pronunciations. I'm in the wrong job, when I'm trying to pronounce Anunnaki names and stuff. But when it comes down to Akhenaten, Nefertiti, Tutankhamun, that family, and his grandparents, they actually had elongated heads, whereas some of the other pharaohs didn't. So there's something not quite right with them. I used to believe the Anunnaki had elongated heads. I don't anymore. I admit when I'm wrong. That's my take on it. So there is something that was interjected with these elongated skulls, because they're not of human. In other words, the sutras are different. And Brian Forrester found over in Peru, in a museum, there was a mum that died and she had a baby. This is obviously ancient, but the mum died, had a baby, and inside when she died, they took the baby out, and the baby had an elongated skull, which means it's not head bound. So there's something, because Peru's got more elongated heads than we've been told about in Mesopotamia, Middle East. So there's something with these elongated skulls, and I haven't quite put my finger on it yet. But so the answer to your question, from my point of view, is the only pharaoh that really was an Anunnaki would have been Ra, Amun-Ra, and then after that would have been technically Thoth, when he left the place that we know as Atlantis, and he went over to Egypt for a period. But yeah, just really Ra. All the rest were hybrids from my research. Gnosis Iris has wrote Zeus and Greek panth. Oh crap! Scrolled all the way to the bottom. I was interested in what that was going to say there. Oh no. Oh, sorry. Sorry, it scrolled all the way to the bottom. Maybe one of the moderators blocked someone or something. But I was really interested in read that, but I can't now. The highest I've gone up to is someone called Rising Tiger. I'm so sorry. If you could write that again, I'd really, because I love Greek. I've studied it quite a lot. Rising Tigers wrote, "You probably not far from the truth." Thank you very much. Derek Martin has wrote, "I'm not saying you're wrong. You just find what you say. You just find what you wish to find." I don't actually. Derek, if you actually listened or watched any of my videos, you'll see I contradict myself in terms of formulating the right answer. So I won't just sit there and go, oh, because I'll think about it, and then I'll go through every permutation very quickly in my head of all the different possibilities. That's why I say a lot, because my brain's going, okay, what happens? And then I give the answer. So it's not what you think. I don't just find what I want and say, oh, that fits my narrative. Trust me, I don't do that. If anyone that's watched my videos or listened to me will tell you I do not do that. That's the last thing. There's no point in doing it, because Derek, you would have debunked me. People would have debunked me if I did that. I can't do that. I don't want to be debunked. IDK wrote, "Dinosaurs created humans, prove me wrong." In terms of creating, so this person here, this is where I've used my logic, which is what I was just talking about. So this person here is saying that because obviously this person may not have heard me talking about the tablets, which prove that a species talks about that they created another species. This person's now saying that dinosaurs created humans because there's no evidence of that, but he wants me to try and prove him wrong. But obviously you could say, well, the preponderance of no evidence doesn't mean that there's no evidence. So the only reason I would say you're wrong there, IDK, is because we've actually got the tablets that say who created the humans. Now you could argue, so this is exactly what I was just talking about, how my brain works. You could say, well, humans were 1 million years old and dinosaurs did survive right up until about 2,000 years ago. So you could say, well, humans, not Homo sapiens, whereas the Anunnaki created Homo sapiens. This is how I work, you see. This is why people don't debunk me, because I go through it all. So you could say, well, what you're actually talking about is 1 million years ago, the dinosaurs created humans, hominids basically, back then. And now you're saying to me, prove me wrong. I can't prove you wrong. There is no evidence either way of that. So IDK, you're trying to catch me out. All you've done is just had me say, I can't prove that. It's the same as me saying to you, prove that the spaghetti monster's not real. You can't. But I can point to the evidence of what I can point to, which I do, and you obviously don't like that. Otherwise you wouldn't have come out with a comment like that. I thank you. DDS has wrote, "You're giving your opinion." No, I'm not actually. I'm giving you the facts. And where I don't have the facts, such as the light energy beings, orbs, I tell you that I got the information from clairvoyants, mediums and spiritists, and I collated that information and give you my opinion on that. So, but where I've got the facts, I point to the facts. Thank you, whoever. I just missed whoever gave me that. So if you don't like my opinion and the facts, move along. But when you realise how much work I put into this and no one debunked me, then my opinion's pretty solid, I would say. DD's wrote, what's your thoughts on David Grush's interview? I don't know who David Grush is. Sorry. I don't know who that is. Sorry. Lady Sam has wrote, you're wrong by saying Israel existed during ancient times. Well, actually, I am right, because if you know the Bible, do you know the Bible? Because they talk about the God of Israel. Oh, that means Israel was there. Oh, that must hurt. I win. Sorry, don't mean to sound rude, but yeah. So if you're saying in ancient times there was no Israel, then yes. If you know the Bible, I'm just using the Bible, let alone, I could go back to the Sumerian tablets and point out the name that was actually. That's why the Ennulites were called Ennulites. The actual name Israel came along a lot later, because obviously the Bible's written approximately 2,000 years ago, but the place Israel was there because this landmass has been here for a very, very long time. So I'm still right. Sorry. User 16 wrote, you smoked something funny. Again, everybody that's listening, another person that cannot tell me where I'm wrong, just knows that they can't beat me, so they come out with some sarcastic comment. So those of you that are interested in watching my videos, I've got a website called ourtruehistory.co.uk. It's got all my TikTok videos on there. You can just go watch them in sets of 50 or 5. My YouTube channel's got them in sets of 5 and 50. And I also have a Patreon page that covers so much more in edited videos, long videos, covering absolutely everything. DDS has asked it over and over. I'm not sure what that is. Hopefully I've answered whatever it was that you wrote. Thank you, Michael. C. Hoffers wrote, do you believe the original Aramaic Bible was taken from the Sumerian tablets? Yes. Yeah. I mean, technically the Aramaic, Babylonian, and even the Assyrian writings were all done at the same time, because Sumerian was around for at least 3,000 years, the Sumerian cuneiform writing. So some of them did have crossovers. So just because they were writing in one style and then wrote in another doesn't mean that the other one was copying the first. It just means that they carried on, but in a different language. So technically, yes and no to that question. Sorry, scroll to the bottom again. Sorry, scroll to the bottom, and now it's. I'm guessing moderators are blocking people that are being rude. So I've now gone to the top, nearer to your questions, but missed out a chunk. Not my fault. That's why TikTok was. Annie has wrote, so you possess knowledge no one on earth has proof of. I smell something. Well, go watch my videos. Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me where I'm wrong. If you can do that, you're smarter than me. And I'd love to know where I'm wrong, because then I would research that. But no one does. Guy on TikTok wrote, we should try to recreate ancient technology. Tuning fork, trident, and scepter, sonic drilling. So, guy on TikTok's obviously clearly done his own work. Knows a bit about what's the. For those of you who don't know, the actual crown and scepter was Anunnakis. They actually talk about it, and they finally give it to humans. In fact, there's a particular passage that says, which I'm doing in that video series that I'm doing. Where it says at that point we hadn't brought down the scepter from heaven. Of course, we all know that heaven should be space, so it's a no-brainer. So obviously, guy on TikTok's been doing their homework, so that's cool. Thoffers wrote, "Listen, we need to work together." I think I'm already following you, aren't I? Or is that another Thoff? There's a few Thoffs around these days. I'll follow you if you don't mind then, and if you've got info that I'm not aware of or anything like that, would be great. Lady Sam has wrote, Israel was not around in ancient Egyptian times. The British stole the land. So Israel was there. Different name. It's like saying Noah wasn't around in ancient times, because his name's Noah now, but it wasn't back then. Doesn't mean he wasn't there. It was just a different name. So Noah's had at least 3 different names over the 10,000 years that we've known about Noah. Zuzudra, Uptamnishtam, and Noah. So we've just because the name wasn't there, it doesn't mean that they weren't talking about the actual place. But as I say, the Bible did mention the God of Israel, if you know your stuff. Jacqueline wrote, "Do you mean the Anunnaki?" Yes, I do. People chatting to each other. Jordan's wrote Prometheum. I'm guessing you mean Prometheus, the film. A lot of people think that Prometheus came first, and that the 2 million tablets that were the oldest known language ever copied the Prometheus movie. I don't know how they can get their head around that, but they do. Sorry, it scrolled to the bottom again. There must be a lot of people. Sorry, okay, I still haven't lost anything. Zola's wrote, "The planet is not ours." I'm guessing you mean. Well, they actually let us inherit Earth, was the phrase that was written in the Lost Book of Enki, which makes sense because they taught us everything we needed to know, and they really did. Otherwise, we wouldn't have everything coming from Sumer. Kerry's wrote, "Do you know of any connection to aliens and your Aboriginal Australians?" I really need to do videos on that, don't I? That's one place I haven't really done videos on. So forgive me for not doing it. I needed to do one on the Yowie as well, which I never got round to doing. So forgive me for that. Now, direct connection, no, as such. Sorry, I'm just changing position on a settee after a while. Get stuck in it. No direct connection. And I will have to do a video on that to give you an answer, really, because I haven't 100% gone down that Australian route, and I need to, because obviously they've been around for a very long time. In fact, their stories of Ayers Rock being, the thing that seeded life and stuff. It's very important that I cover Australia, and I haven't. So forgive me. Follow me, and I will get to Australia. I'll make a note of it to definitely do that. So forgive me. Harvey's wrote, "He is being a troll." Thank you, Leah, for the little fox again. So cute. Hopefully, Harvey, it's not me that's being a troll. Kenneth has wrote, "I've researched God made humans," and we've got another person here that, again, everybody, not one person can tell me where I'm wrong. All they do is come out with silliness. June X has wrote, "Half Anunnaki, half Gutian would have wiped the human race out off the place of Earth." So June X has done some homework. Well done indeed. So those of you that probably don't know, hopefully you've watched my video actually. So on my Patreon page, along with all the other videos, I've done one on a thing called the real Planet of the Apes. So there was a species here on Earth that was apes, but with the intelligence of humans. And June X has actually wrote half Anunnaki, half Gutian, meaning they already had human intelligence and didn't need to be given human intelligence. So in other words, what June is saying is half of the Anunnaki, instead of breeding with, or genetically modifying the hominids, if they had found these Gutian species first, we wouldn't be here, but a well smarter race would have, in other words, is what June's saying. So spot on, June. Very good point. Go to number 1 in the class for that. Well done. You've really done your homework. User 45 I've believed this for 30 years. Yeah, I mean, when you realise that no other species had fused chromosomes, only us, you got to think someone's been messing around with us. Thoffers wrote, "We have to raise the frequency of humanity." That's the story that out there, that the star seeds were trying to help us raise our frequency, but I don't think we're going to do it in time. There's too many sheep out there that's quite happy to follow the leaders, the elites, and you just watch. look what's happening to our children now. They're being targeted and everything, and in 10 years' time, we'll forget about all the arguments that we had, and it will just be the norm. This is what's going to happen. That's if we survive 10 years. Geg has wrote, you think you're distracting yourself so you won't have to think and act about more important things. No, no, trust me, I do worry about more important things. On my top of my important things are the elites depopulating and, getting away with it, which is going to happen very soon. So, they're doing it. And people can't see it. So, yeah, I don't distract from that. That's top of my agenda. Zola's wrote, we not own this planet. Technically, they gave it to us, so I think we probably do in that respect. Zola's wrote, User 45 wrote, we were brought here by advanced life. Please don't say that as a matter of fact, because I would just ask you for the evidence of that, and you won't be able to give me any evidence. Not knocking you, it's just you can't. There's zero evidence of that. So that's why I go by the evidence. Thoffers wrote, hello, please hear my word. I've followed you, so hopefully we'll have a chat later if you want. Carrie's wrote, do you know of any connection with aliens? Sorry, this is live. I know you wrote that earlier. Hopefully you heard me earlier. We'll look into it a bit more for you. Guy on TikTok wrote, weren't dinosaurs just the beasts? Well, I think my research has led me to believe that originally the word dinosaur was... not dinosaur. The word dragon was a meteorite. A comet with a tail. I've done videos showing the evidence of that, and even Sitchin said the same thing. So, but down the line, I think dinosaurs were called dragons. So, I think that obviously we call dinosaurs now, but I think they were called dragons, and that's where a lot of the old stories of dragons, because obviously the Sumerians or the Anunnaki talked about comets with tails. They describe them as dragons, like a 300-mile long tail. But down the line, I think someone used the same word dragon for dinosaurs, and that's where we've got dinosaurs all around the world. Even carved into buildings and stuff, because they carried on living after 65 million years ago. We've got carvings of them all pretty much all over the place. Whether it's on stone, whether it's in temples and stuff like that, and even on pyramids. So we know that dinosaurs did carry on living. So I think dinosaurs were dragons, and even in Sumerian texts after the down the line, because we've got to remember the Sumerian texts at least 3,000 years old. Someone down the line started to use the word dragon to describe dinosaurs. So when you know that, if you believe that I'm right, and you start researching the dragons in ancient times, you'll realise they're actually talking about... Hopefully you'll realise they're talking about these creatures. And of course we've got cylinder seals which do depict these type of creatures. A lot of the cylinder seals actually depict... I say a lot. There's some cylinder seals that depict the mythological creatures, the mermaids, the harpy, the hydra. I'll show all the evidence of it on some of my videos. So basically I'll hopefully answer something. Tasha's wrote, Genesis 1:27, God created man in his own image. In the image of God created him, he, male and female. Yes, but Tasha, you forgot to mention Genesis 1:26, where God created man in their image, plural. So 1:26 came before 1:27. Carmen's wrote, there is proof of that in DNA. I'm guessing that's the Anunnaki, maybe. Re-Evolutions wrote, the separating of the waters is Earth separating from Tiamat. See, I would have thought that, and I'm actually going through that on this series called The Lost Book of Our True History, which is Majority of us on Patreon, but you can watch 25 minutes on YouTube. Thank you, Nick. I think your name was Nick. I just saw it flash up. The waters are important on to do with Tiamat, but I think wait till I get to that point in the video, and then so you're not far wrong, because the whole point of the Bible where it says the waters above, so below, something like that. I'm actually doing that bit right now on the video. Obviously, wherever you are on the planet, there is no up. I mean, technically there's an up, but you can't have water above because water will be surrounding the planet. Even if it's a flat Earth, it will be surrounding it. So when you say up, why not down? Why not below? Why not around the planet? So that's where people go wrong when they believe that the water is above the firmament, because it's also below the firmament. You can't have space only above the water above the firmament and space below the Earth. Doesn't make sense. So people just don't use their logic and think, well, hang on a minute, if everything's water, then there's water above and below and to the sides. It's around us. Kenneth wrote, no way aliens, if they exist, find Earth, let alone be able to travel here. Kenneth, you're assuming that they're not from our solar system. And you're assuming, Kenneth, that the technology that they've got that's probably millions of years ahead of ours. So, Kenneth, if you go back 150 years ago, if I said to you 150 years ago, Kenneth, I can get from here in the UK to America in 10 hours, you would say I'm stupid. You'd write in capitals just like you did now. You'd say there's no way ever in the history of Earth or even in the future you'd be able to get to America in 10 hours. You would say that, wouldn't you, Kenneth? Wouldn't you, Kenneth? Come on, you would. 150 years ago, before we could fly, you would say, I'm talking crap. Kenneth. So roll that forward. We can now get to America in 10 hours. Shorter if you went by Concorde. So, Kenneth, are you really that naive to think that in another 1,000 years we won't be able to use some other technologies to get somewhere faster? Are you that naive? Really? So yeah, but either way, the Anunnaki their planets in our solar system, and NASA keeps hinting towards it many a times. Just look it up, Planet X. Sean has wrote, wait, I've talked with Freud. Didn't we create aliens? No, we didn't. No. There's no evidence that we created aliens, but we do have the evidence the other way around. Phil Frost has wrote, hypnosis regression proves what the host is saying. Thank you very much. Yes, I have done an extensive amount of research into past life regressions and all that kind of things. So thank you. Obviously, you've probably done your own research as well to come to the same conclusion, hopefully. Derek Show, Anunnaki is just kings wearing a sun mask like Tarzan with a gun in their hand. And I would say anyone called Derek is just a person that never bothered researching anything. Oh, sorry, Derek. I forgot your name's Derek. Wow. So when you say Anunnakis are just kings, they don't actually call themselves kings. They call themselves gods. So really what you should have said, there was a king's list, but that was after the Anunnaki. So you've got the king's list, which were the offsprings off of the Anunnaki and humans. Because the Anunnaki were the gods and the lords. So technically you're wrong there. The Anunnaki weren't kings. So, yeah, I mean, you could argue that Ra was a king, technically Pharaoh, God still. He was really a god, the sun god. So, yeah, sorry, Derek. I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to make it seem like, I'm making up crap. But unfortunately, I keep pointing back to the evidence, which you will not go and see. You won't go and watch my 25-minute video on YouTube, will you, Derek? Because you're frightened. I don't mean to sound bad, but you were frightened that when I show the older text and I show that the Bible copied, fact, absolute proof, 100% proof that the Bible copied the older text. And you know that because the word angel and the word Elohim, etc., are older words from. If you don't know that, then please stop talking. But you know that they're copies of older words. Angel is messenger, so you know that it's a copy. So once you know that, then maybe start following me, or just leave me alone and go sit and pray to a man with a beard. Oh, sorry, that's the Anunnaki. Crap, sorry, didn't mean that. Go to pray to your God. Sorry, I keep forgetting the Anunnaki had beards, just like God does. In fact, also, are you aware, Derek, that Ezekiel, when he saw, I love doing this one, Ezekiel, when he saw God sitting on a throne of lapis lazuli, he looked like a man, but hey, let's forget that for a minute. You do realise that I've proved on that video that Enlil, who was the highest, classed as God, who actually Ezekiel went to go and see the highest, funny enough, the same thing, that Ezekiel had a lapis lazuli throne made for him. So it's quite amazing that Enlil, before God even mentioned anything, because God spoke to Moses and 12 apostles, but didn't talk to any of the Anunnaki. Funny how God then came along later on and thought, you know what, I like Enlil's chair with the lapis lazuli and the little touches. I think I'm going to copy that and then ask Ezekiel to come up and see me. Or it was Enlil, the god, Enlil, the highest. It's very easy to do the research. It's not rocket science. Michaels wrote, are the Rothschilds alien representatives hell-bent on keeping us as miserable as possible? I can't say whether they're representatives, but I would agree with the other parts of what you just said, yes. Timmy's wrote, dinosaurs never existed. So you've got to remember, Timmy, that when people found the bones of dinosaurs a few hundred years ago, there was no telephones. Trust me, I've done my research. I don't say stuff unless I do my research. So in order for them to tell everyone else around the world that they've got to start making up fake bones, they would have had to telegraph all the museums and universities, etc., and said, look, anyone find any bones? Oh, no, sorry. Make some bones up. It'll be a good giggle, and it'll be a bit of fun, and then the carving that's on the Indian temples that look like dinosaurs, we could make fake bones of those, and we could also copy the Stegosaurus that's on the pyramid in the Mayan pyramid. We could copy that Stegosaurus and pretend that was a real creature as well. Timmy, come on. YouTube's got a lot to play for it. I mean, how easy do people follow other people on YouTube and not actually do their own research? I don't mean to sound rude. I couldn't do that. I just couldn't sit there and watch someone else's video and then say, yeah, they're right. And then go and tell someone like me that I'm wrong. I couldn't do that. I'd feel stupid. Sorry, it scrolled to the bottom. Sorry. And the funny thing is that, about the dinosaurs, the people that say there's no dinosaurs say that they were giant chicken bones. So that normal people that find dinosaur bones, they're all giant chicken bones. And instead of giant chickens, we decided to... The logic just doesn't help. Sorry. Sorry, Kerry's wrote, Outro History, am I allowed to DM you specific questions? Oh, crap, it scrolled to the bottom. Yes, you are, yeah. I was just going to about follow you there, so you can do that, no problem at all. Happy to help. Obviously, if you don't believe what I'm saying, no problem at all. Just don't be rude, that's all I ever ask, but unfortunately... Angel has given me a little rose or something. Thank you very much for that. I'm just trying to find that person. Sorry. Trying to find that person. So I was just going to follow that person. Kerry, there we are. Oh, we're already friends. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, asked away, Kerry. Thank you, whoever just gave that. I just missed it. But thank you. Right, KK's wrote, the great thinkers were into, I'm not going to read that out, young boys. Highest high, more than likely, KK, more than likely. I mean, if you look at priests, I was talking to my mum yesterday about stuff, about religious people saying bad things about me using what you just said there about the young people. And I said, it's funny how that never even entered my mind if I'm arguing with someone, but they do. That bring, and I said, even when I was young and I used to try and read newspapers, all I kept reading was this priest did this and this priest did that. So I would agree with you. Paisley's wrote, what about animals? Not sure what that is referring to. You mean, did they create animals? They created some, yeah. They created, obviously, the mythological creatures they did actually genetically create. We've got evidence of that. And if you watch my video on my Patreon page called, if anyone's interested, it's patreon.com/Our True History. But there's a video that I did there, edited and everything, that's everything you need to know about mermaids. And I actually show where there's these horse-type creatures, and then I show the carvings of the horse-type creatures the Anunnaki used that were genetically modified from two different creatures here on Earth. So they definitely were messing around. So, yeah, sorry. But they didn't, yeah. They brought some creatures down from Mars. Some people don't even believe there's a Mars. They brought creatures down from Mars. They actually say it. I've read it out. In fact, I've done a video on my Patreon page explaining what type of creatures they would have possibly brought down because they could actually ride them. And they also brought down sheep and certain other animals and grain, etc., from their home planet. I think I did a video on my Patreon page about that as well. There's lots of videos on my Patreon page. Loads on my TikTok and website free of charge. But if you want to watch some other stuff that's not on there. Harvey's wrote, are aliens living in the inner earth of our planet? So it's my calculations is it's a honeycombed inner earth. It's not like a ball inside another ball. Are there aliens in there? Well, the stories from whistleblowers are that they have bases underground. And even in mountains in some cases. I wouldn't say living, I would say working in Earth. So that's probably as close as I'd go to living. I don't think there is aliens living in there. I mean, you could say they're living, but they're generally working. They didn't sort of go there to set up a holiday place and stay. It was more of a place that they can do whatever it is that they're doing. Just scrolling down. Timmy's wrote, oil isn't fossil fuels. I'm guessing the only thing I can think of is when I was mentioning that Rockefeller's made his money on petrol. But so I'm not sure. I don't remember saying anything else, Timmy, to do with that. Whoops, I scrolled all the way to the bottom. A lot of people tonight. Okay. It scrolled all the way to the top again. Sorry, scroll to the bottom. So the top one I've got is someone called Nico, who's writing Foolish SHIT. Feel free to block people like that, which I'm sure they just did, which is probably why it scrolled all the way to the bottom. Again, anyone that's listening, no one tells me where I'm wrong. I've got 1,000 videos. You can just go and watch one of them and say, actually, but they don't. Thoffers wrote, no, God is very real. So when you said we got to chat, go watch my video to come back and tell me where I'm wrong. Moderators muted another person. Scrolled all the way to the bottom. Sherry, you're on form tonight. So Thoth, tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me why the tablets are wrong. The 2 million tablets and the 100 and the 2 million tablets are wrong, and the 1,200 pages, so a lot less, is right. even though they got contradictions in it. If you can tell me that, then I'll be happy to listen. And please don't go by your gut feeling, because I don't do that. I go by, obviously, the evidence. Ion Anti-Semitism has wrote, Ezekiel saw a spaceship. He did indeed. Well done. Someone's obviously done their homework and actually understood what was written, instead of not understanding it and just thinking that God came down in a fiery noise that sounded like a waterfall. Derek's wrote, this Derek you on about, dude, didn't say now. No, the other Derek. There's another Derek. Sorry, Derek. There's two Dereks now. Sorry. Yeah, I shouldn't have. I didn't. I thought. Yeah, my bad. I didn't realise there was two Dereks. I was just talking about that Derek at that point. I completely forgot about another Derek. Sorry. AK has wrote, the creator guides whom he wills. Typical, two Dereks on the same night. What was the odds of that? So I apologise, Derek. The creator guides whom he wills and leads astray whom he wills. So that's from AK. See, that's what you want to take from the Bible, I'm guessing. But obviously, if I asked for the evidence of that, you'll just say, go read chapter 12 or something, which will be very ambiguous in the Bible. So I can't take that, I'm afraid. I have to go with the original tablets. Tickle Pink has wrote, Anunnaki were cast out of heaven. No evidence of that. The Ajiji were not even cast out of heaven. They came down and stole women. So I there's no evidence that they were cast out of heaven. Unless you've got some evidence, I'd be very happy to read that or see that. Rowdies wrote, trolls just come in and harass hosts and take up time. They do. I know. Thank you. Sorry, Rowdy. Problem is, I read everything, and as I read it, by then I've realised that I've read it, and by then it's too late. Ennies wrote, how can the cuneiform tablets were decoded accurately if it's the first civilization? So it's a really good question, a sensible question. So basically, we had a cave in I think it was Afghanistan that had what they call the Dead Sea Scrolls, and in those scrolls we have 3 lots of different languages all saying the same thing. Now scholars could actually translate the first 2 languages, and then they realised that the third language is actually saying the same thing, e.g. the Sumerian language, and that's how they managed to get that started. And then they actually came across tablets with a dictionary in it, which really helped them. And they've actually still got the tablet in the British Museum. There was loads of dictionaries, but they actually made copies of copies back then in Sumerian times. They had libraries, like the Library of Nineveh, and they would lend out books, but not books. They would lend out or make copies of the tablets, and people would come from far and wide and take them. In fact, there was some rich person that in Pompeii that Clark, shush. I know you're nicking my milk a little bit. There was, sorry about this. There was a guy, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but in Pompeii they found a rich person's sort of villa that was covered over, obviously, with the ash and rock and whatever else from the volcano that erupted. But they found a library of Sumerian, Akkadian, and all sorts of different tablets. And on the backs of the tablets, they actually put a mark to show that it was a copy off of the original. So, yeah, we're pretty sure that they're decoded accurately. Ion the anti-Sesame, can you take some of our questions on mic? What's the time now?
9 o'clock, of course.
Probably not, because normally what I do is I say this, but no one ever bothers. I'm the only one that actually ever does anything. So what I say is, chat to me outside of this. Clark, down your room. Chat to me outside of.
Love you.
Love you too, Clark. Put a message on any post. I read every single post on my videos. and then I'll follow you, and then we'll chat about what we want to do, and then we'll set up a time to do a live chat. So we're dedicated. No one else will be upset because I'm not reading anyone else's questions. We'll be just me and you chatting away. No one bothers. I say, listen, when we have live chats, I say the same thing to other people that say, "Can we chat?" No one bothers doing that. Sorry, guy on TikTok. I'm not saying you won't. I'm just saying no one else bothers. Guy on TikTok. So is Enlil the Christian god or Enki? Both. They're both. Technically, other Anunnaki are also the same one god that the Bible ended up changing to one god instead of plural. So that's why in the Bible you've got a nice God and a wrathful God, even though they're the same person. One minute he wants to save us, next minute he wants to wipe us out in a flood. That's because there's two different people. When you read it now, the Bible, you go, oh, that makes sense. That's got to be Enlil. He's trying to kill us. Ah, that's got to be Enki. He's trying to save us. When you realise that, because the original tablets tell us that, literally it tells us that Enki defies Enlil and has a go at him and everything else. So, basically, it's all there. Thothas wrote, "Listen, aliens are real." I totally agree with you. I don't need to listen. I totally agree with you. Ride and Go has put some thumbs up. Thank you very much. Brandonator's wrote, "No such thing as aliens. Don't fall for that deception." So, Brandonator, simple question for you. You've probably done a runner because you write these things and you'll just disappear. When we land on another planet and we're classed as aliens, come back and tell me that there's no such thing as aliens. Oh, it's too easy. The people I swear people have got dumber over the years. Haven't they? On a serious note, reading some of these comments over the years I've been doing this, there's something in the water, isn't there? And we all know there is something in the water. Olas wrote, "There is a God, his name is Jesus Christ." Well, actually, if you go by the original tablets, that obviously you've got to remember God didn't talk to the Anunnaki. There's no evidence, according to your Bible, that God spoke to the Anunnaki. It's amazing how the Anunnaki called themselves gods, and that's actually their name, race name. So do you think it's a coincidence that the Anunnaki had the race name as gods? The Anunnaki is the people that came here to Earth from their race. So don't get mixed up that the Anunnaki is their race name. It's not. It's a team name. Same as the Ujiji were given the name for when they went on to Mars, the younger Anunnaki, which is called the Watchers. Turns out in your Bible, you'll find that the Ujiji translates to Watchers. So, too easy. So is it a coincidence that thousands of years before God made himself aware, appear to Moses and anyone else, that the same race of beings called themselves gods and also called themselves lords? How is that? How would that happen? Is that amazing? It is amazing, isn't it? That they called themselves gods and lords. They did. Trust me, they did. You can go read the translations. Way before God even came along. So I put it to you, good sir, or ma'am, or they, them. Is it not possible that the Almighty Being thought, I'm going to nick their name? Why not? If they come before God, and don't say they didn't come before God, because God never made himself known until Moses and the apostles, how did the Anunnaki have that name? You won't be able to answer that. Sorry. This is why it's easy. This is why I worry about the state of humanity in terms of consciousness and logic. It seems to go out the window. Andy's wrote, "It's easy, right, Mr. All-Knowing?" I would be happily proved wrong if someone could happily prove me wrong, instead of just being rude and saying BS and all that kind of stuff. I've been doing this for 4 hours or whatever it's been, and not one person. I've told people, go away, watch my 25-minute video about proving that the Bible's a copy of older texts, etc., and the Anunnaki was genuinely really here and were aliens, and not one person's gone away for 25 minutes, come back and said, right, On this particular point, our true history, you're wrong, because the craft that you're referring to in the Bible that talks about the flying craft that the Anunnaki used, or the gods used, XYZ, but no one's done that. So when you call me all Mr. Knowing, maybe I am. So, Belinda's wrote, repent, God created man. Yes, they did. Enki did, yes. And when I say repent, you say repent, I'll say repent back, because Enki, the tablet, tells Noah, Enki tells Noah in the British Museum, the tablet that predates the Bible. Answer that, Belinda. Answer that. How come Enki, who was one of the Anunnaki, tells Noah? Where was God? What was he up to? Come on, God. Was he sitting on his lapis lazuli throne having an iced tea? He needed a throne. God needed a lapis lazuli throne. Seriously? You read that in the Bible, Ezekiel, and no one sits there and goes, hang on a minute, this seems a bit silly, doesn't it? He needs a throne. This invisible being needs a lapis lazuli throne. That just so happens, if you read the ancient texts, the Anunnaki adored lapis lazuli. Is he copying them? He really is. He's nicked their name, God. He's nicked their lords. He's nicked their chair. He's grew a beard like them. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm being silly. Ion Anti-Semitism wrote, Rothschilds converted to Catholicism. Amazing how people always blame Jews for 14 million of us. That's one of the reasons why I kind of stay out of the religion side of things, because it's somehow religion's pitted against other religions, and it's wrong. In my opinion, there should be no religion, because obviously the Anunnaki had singular people that we worshipped in their areas. You know, Marduk, Babylon, Enlil, Israel, Inanna, Indus Valley, all those kind of things. So Ningazida even had his own temple and stuff. So it wasn't a religion. It was just, them being very egotistical, making us worship them. But it's not a religion. They didn't have to go to pray for them. They prayed in song, but it wasn't a prayer. It was more of a song. Like there was a song. There was a prayer to Ninurta for beating Anzu, but when you actually read it, it's not a prayer. It was Ningazida, something like, I'm paraphrasing here, but Ningazida, our great hero. Everything was a hero. That's why when you get to Greek times, everyone was a hero. Ningazida, our great hero, we will worship him. Yeah, blah blah blah, da 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 da. But it doesn't mean religion. It was just a prayer to him. That's what they called a hymn. And in fact, they also had hymns to them as well. So when you start looking at what really a prayer was, it wasn't sitting there with your hands clasped saying, please give me rain. It was actually something that they would give out as, thank you, Leah, they would give out as another bit of propaganda, really, in the big scheme of things. That's what it was, the tablets. And of course, down the line, we took the word prayer and thought it to meant that we have to sit at night and pray to an almighty being or whatever. Sorry, it scrolled all the way to the bottom. I've missed a chunk now. It's not my fault. It's because of the way TikTok works. Gary Rice has wrote, where's the videos? Feel free to watch them on my website, outtruehistory.co.uk, or YouTube, called Our True History. Look up just type in Our True History parts on YouTube. You can get to everything from my website, outtruehistory.co.uk. You can get to everything from there. Dee has asked watchware. Again, if you want to watch the particular series called The Lost Book of Our True History, it's the links on my website, or you can go watch 25 minutes of it on YouTube, but the hours long version's on the Patreon page. But 25 minutes will show you that if I've got hours worth, you know that the 25 minutes is, I'm going to be right on all the rest of it. I know it sounds big-headed, but I'm only going by the tablets, and I can't, the tablets ain't lying to me. Christophers wrote, no, they are true, I should know. I'm trying to remember what you wrote. I can't remember what it was, but if it was to do with God being real or something, then I'd have to take more than your word for it. Like I say, I point to evidence where possible. And if I don't, then I won't, I'll say I believe. My thoughts are. Tom's has wrote, my research led, here we go, to oil was produced from methane from sewer companies. I'll just move on from that. Shaz has wrote, who made the blood clot aliens? Who made the blood clot? I'm guessing you're saying if aliens created us, who created the aliens? Chemicals, go research, you'll find out I'm right, come back, say sorry, follow me, everyone's good. Chemicals can create life, believe it or not. Go do your research. AK has wrote, all the prophets believe in the creator of all creation is no one has who no one has an equal. So what you're actually talking about there is down the line after they changed the Bible. You do realise they changed the Bible, don't you? I mean, Enoch was in it, and then loads at the beginning, and then down the line, there's virtually one or two passages about him. So when you realise that, okay, that there's been changes to the Bible, and God's word was don't change the Bible. In fact, that was actually in the book of Enoch, which I'm sure you know because you've done your homework. Maybe when you realise that in the book of Enoch it says man shouldn't be changing what I write, however they will, words to that effect, you realise then that whatever comes after is changed by man. And of course then you've got Genesis 1:26 saying plural, and you're saying that all the prophets, which prophets obviously came later after the Bible, they really did. So you go before the Bible, and there's loads of gods. So when you're saying that we have to believe the prophets, you can't actually believe the prophets if you go by the tablets that the Bible copy from, and they do. They really do copy from. Again, watch my video. 25 minutes. I prove that the Bible copies from the older tablets. It's a done deal. Job done. End of. Sorry, scrolling on. It's on my YouTube channel. RJOV5 wrote Sitchin translated facts. He did. He paraphrased. So I'm glad someone's done the homework. He paraphrased for the Lost Book of Inky simply because there's lines missing. Where I'm doing this video to honour Zachariah Sitchin and actually show what he was actually talking about. So in the many hours of this video that's on Patreon, stroke 25 minutes of it on YouTube, I show where Sitchin would say, oh, XYZ, and then I show the actual evidence, and then I even go to the Bible side of it to show the Bible backing up the evidence of aliens. I know you're going to say it's crazy, but I do. Sorry, so I digressed. Michaels wrote, is Norse theology an interpretation of Sumerian experience with Anunnaki? So in my research, Norse was when Marduk was kicked out of. So Marduk was the son of Enki. He was banished for a long period of time because, long story, he had fights with his brother and whatnot. Anyway, he went off. In my opinion, he went off to Scandinavia, and that's where he stayed because his dad had to go and find him at one point when his dad came down. Not dad, his granddad, King Anu, came down. So anyway, from what I understand, Odin would have been Enki, and Thor would have been Marduk, and Odin, and what's the other one? You all know his names. Oh, bloody, my brain's gone. You're all shouting at the screen. Thor's brother, everybody. Come on, you know his name. Loki. There we are. Yeah, it would have been more than likely Nargle, which was the brother of... In fact, Nargle in the end helped Ningzi to try and blow up Marduk, which was quite nasty. So, yeah, that's my take on it. Angie's wrote, yeah, okay. I'm not sure what that's referring to. Custard has wrote, you could get another phone or tablet and read the messages off that and it wouldn't jump about. I did buy a tablet, didn't I? My boy nicked it in the end. I should do that, shouldn't I? Again, that was my whole plan of doing it. You're right, I should. I did think about it tonight, but I've got the other phone right beside me, but both of them's got the same account on. My laptop, my PC hasn't got the same account, so I could have read it off of that, but my bedroom is boiling. But yes, you're right. So, Custard, I will give you third position today on that. So, well done. Go to third in the class. Thank you, Michael, for the lightning bolt that Zeus would have sent. Gary Rice asked where the videos are. Just go to ourtruehistory.co.uk. You can find everything from there. NE has wrote, you are wrong in one of your videos. Zachariah Sitchin is just an author of books, nothing more. I was so close to hoping that someone would actually tell me where I'm wrong. NE wrote, you're wrong in one of your videos. And I was thinking, wow, okay, finally. 2-3 years of doing this, someone's actually done some research, and all they wrote was Zachariah Sitchin's an author. That's all they wrote. Oh, NE. Actually, NE, if you actually watch my Lost Book of Our True History, which backs up Zachariah Sitchin, you'll find that it's not just Zachariah Sitchin that's translated these tablets. You'll find people from 1900s have translated these tablets and back up Zachariah Sitchin. You don't want to hear that, but that's true. That's the fact. Fact. Unless you've got a time travel machine and went back there and, made them up yourself. It's fact. You can't deny it. Just look up, you're not going to like this if you're religious. Look up the cuneiform parallels of the Old Testament. I'll read that, I'll say that one more time just for you religious people if you're interested. This is from 1912. 1912, before Zachariah Sitchin came along. But of course, you ain't going to want to hear that because you're trying to knock Zachariah Sitchin. Before Zachariah Sitchin, there's a book from translations of the old tablets called Cuneiform Parallels, meaning the same as or running along equally as the Old Testament. In other words, Sumerian tablets that say the same as your Bible, but the Sumerian tablets are older. From 1912. You ain't going to want to hear that because you're trying to say that Zachariah Sitchin wrote books. Yes, he did write books. And so did that person that done a website called Zachariah Sitchin is Wrong. He wrote books. He wrote Christian books. He was a Bible person. And he created a website called sitchiniswrong.com because he didn't want Sitchin to be right, talking about aliens. So he's picked Sitchin out. But as I say, 1912, nothing to do with Sitchin. It's too easy, isn't it, everybody? Or is it just me? When you've got the knowledge, everything makes more sense than trying to people just trying to shoehorn what they want in and by using the argument that Zachariah Sitchin wrote books. Yes, he did write books. He wrote books about what he's translated. Does that make him wrong? No. Thothas wrote, but God is very real. He is not what everyone thinks he is, though God, basically the final stage also. Well, unfortunately, Thoth, I've already proved tonight that your God never spoke to the Anunnaki, correct? But yet they already had the name God. So straight away there's a conflict there, isn't there? I know you want God to be real. That's fine. It's up to you. Move along. Probably don't listen to me because you know I'm right in your heart. You know I'm right. That when the Anunnaki call themselves gods and lords, and Genesis 1:26 says plural gods created man, and I've got the original. I've read out the original text. They're in the British Museum if you're interested, where they talk about creating a species to do their work for them. It's a no-brainer, isn't it? because I could ask you for the evidence when you said God is very real. I could ask you for evidence, and you won't be able to give me any. You won't. That's not. I don't mean to sound rude. You just will not be able to. You'll say, "Oh, but I believe," and the miracles and the other, but you won't be able to give me evidence. But I've given you the evidence. British Museum, Oxford University website, translations of those tablets, literally spell out. Literally, there's no ambiguity in it, like the Bible. None whatsoever. They created a species, failed about six times, and finally got it right. No ambiguity, nothing. You can't. Now, Thoth did actually carry on saying that God is also called Source. Now, there is aliens, as you know, I'm sure you know, that have said that there is a source or creation. But that's not what the Bible's talking about. So when we call it God, we shouldn't be calling it God, because we've already got a race called God that predates the Bible, that predates God talking about himself. So either he stole their name or the Anunnaki were gods. So once you realise that, Thoth, that the Anunnaki were the gods, let's move on to the source or creation, or as the Anunnaki called it, the creator of everything. But that's not what's in the Bible. Otherwise, the Bible will be talking about the creator of everything, not gods, which the Anunnaki were also called. You see my point? So, if there is something that's created the universe, source, creation, creator of everything, it's not what's in the Bible. The Bible copies the older text, which I've proved on my video if anyone wants to go watch it. Duffy's wrote, gonna go watch videos. No problem at all, thank you. Hopefully you'll enjoy them. Metal Detectors wrote, any more Sumerian tablets to be found or other? Yeah, there is. As you probably saw, in the last 6 months, they found Ningazita's. Well, they'd already known about Ningazita's, not Ningazita, Ninurta's temple, and they'd already cleared out the tablets. And funny enough, no one's been given those to translate. Funny that. But they carried on digging and found another 200 tablets in there. Again, probably guarantee we're not going to get to see those tablets. So there is tablets to be found for sure. Starries wrote, Bible, does it talk about sending forth deception spirits? Bible, does it talk about sending forth deceptive spirits? Sending forth, not forth, but sending forward deceptive spirits. Does it talk about it? You'd need to ask someone that's read the Bible way more than I have to break that part down. I'm probably not the best person to answer that. I'm sorry. Yeah, I can't answer that one. Sorry. RJ has wrote, he was the translator of the cuneiform tablets. I'm guessing you're referring to Zachariah Sitchin. He wasn't. He came along. Like I say, there's already proved that there's someone back in 1912. I think if Sitchin was around, he probably would have been a child at that point. So, yeah, there's other people that's translated tablets. Catherine's wrote, my dad was obsessed with the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's amazing, isn't it? We were so lucky to have them. And you know how they were found. There was a kid throwing up. I mean, I think someone would have found them eventually, but we was lucky that no one destroyed them. They were in these vases up in a high up little cave, and some kids were throwing some stones, and they heard a smash, and they thought, what the hell's that? Next day they went up, managed to climb up there, and saw all these papyrus writings in these jars, as well as I think the tablets. So yeah, very very cool. And he is very thanks for the explanation. I accept that one. No worries at all. Thank you for being open. Alfredo's wrote, hello Clarky. He's come and nicked whatever he could and done a runner while I was occupied. Foffers wrote, God is the owner, combined consciousness of all beings across the reality, human, alien, everything. When you say God, again, we've already established that, let's be honest, the Anunnaki called themselves gods before God mentioned himself as being God. So we have to go with the Anunnaki with that one. We have to. Otherwise God would have had to have chatted to them and said, "You're allowed to use my name." It doesn't make sense. So the source or creation is what you're saying is the owner combined. Then you could be right. Alfredo's wrote, "Look out, Clark's on the middle." Yeah, he's on the hard stuff tonight. Nicked it, a little sod. Adams wrote, "Theory: aliens in our oceans, not deep space. UFOs being submerged into the sea." They have, but obviously we've got footage of when NASA, before they started doing the fake space station footage. They used to have live streams, and we used to have many live feeds cut by them because UFOs would be coming in and out into space. So we know that there is UFOs that were going in and out of space just from that point of view. But yes, they also do go underwater, so they've probably got bases underneath the ocean. Michael's right. "Oh man, his kid is nicking his milk. Stolen milk. His mama from the manna from the gods." Yeah. Yeah. I know it sounds bad me stopping him from drinking the milk, but he's been going heavy on the milk today. I'm probably going to have none left for tomorrow. Lady Di has wrote, "Sorry, just joined. What proof do you have that aliens created humans?" Okay, so just go to, when you finish listening to me, go to YouTube, type in Our True History, type in parts, just because other people use the word Our True History. You'll see my little brown image of a monk holding a skull. Click on that. The third video back, you'll see a picture of a book, and it will have on the image, it will say the Lost Book of Our True History. It's only 25 minutes. There's many hours worth on my Patreon page, but that you can go watch. When you've watched that, hopefully, with an open mind, you'll see that there's no ambiguity. I don't do ambiguous stuff. You'll see that the tablets are, original, and everything thereon follows. Thank you, Elaine. Thoffers wrote, "Let me chat with you." So it's 9:31. Again, there's 99 messages. So if I let you join, all these people are just going to be angry with me. But all you're going to do so far from what I've already seen of you talking is you're going to go back and say, "God is real," and I'll say, "But," and I'll prove again that God was named the Anunnaki, and then you'll say, "Okay, fair enough, you got me on that." Then you'll say, "Okay, but the source and creation is real," and I'll say, "Yeah, more than likely." And then I'll say, "But that's not in the Bible, is it?" And you'll go, "Well, not really, because you're right, the stories in the Bible copy." I proved it, and on that video, just 25 minutes alone, I prove it, let alone the hours worth that I've already done. Then you'll say, "Okay, fair enough," and then we'll both agree that there is possibly a creational source, but it's not what's in the Bible, and then you'll say, "Thank you very much," and I've just saved us having that chat. Tia's wrote, "No one really knows." Well, I can only go by the tablets that predate everything, first ever language. Pretty impressive that they wrote about things that, genetically modifying species and that as a very first language thousands of years ago. You kind of have to go along with that and think, yeah, that's more than likely right. Seeing as we've got fused chromosomes as well to match, yeah, more than likely right. Oh, let's scroll all the way to the... sorry, just going back where I was. Michaels wrote, "Why did they kill off the Nephilim?" So the Nephilim were the giants, not all of the offspring off of the Anunnaki and humans were giants. Only the ones they called the Nephilim. Forget the Bible, go back to the older tablets. So the Nephilim started to grow, and as they grew, they started to eat. This is from the tablets. They started to eat the fish, the livestock, and people as they grew, because they were getting big. I mean, bigger than 8 to 12 foot tall. So we're talking, in the sizes that some people claim, up to 36 foot. So when the option of creating the flood came about, and they had an assembly, again, first ever language, they write about having an assembly. You can go read the translation. It's called Atrahasis. Again, British Museum, go read it. But you can read the PDF online. It's It's there. It's not done by Zachariah Sitchin. It's been done before Zachariah Sitchin. And basically, they wanted to wipe out us humans because we was too noisy. We bred too much. We was eating too much. Sound familiar? And obviously, the Nephilim were there eating the people as well. So it was a one foul swoop. Get rid of everything. Made sense. Which is why, just from a Bible point of view, you've got God that's going to send this flood to wipe out everyone, and you've also got the same God, if it was the same God, but obviously we know it's not, telling one person to survive. What was the point of telling one person to survive if you're going to wipe out everything? What was the point? You might as well not bother wiping it out, because you know that they're going to procreate and survive again. There's no benefit. It was just a complete waste of exercise. Unless Enlil, as it says in the first ever language, talking about setting up an assembly to work out how to destroy, using the deluge, all the people and animals on this planet. And then you've got another god, because they're called gods. Can't dispute that. They are called gods. That's what their names are. Another god called Enki, who tells Zazudra, thank you, Alfredo, who tells Zazudra to build basically an ark, a boat, which he does. That makes more sense to me, I don't know about you guys, than a god saying, I'm going to kill everyone, but maybe not everyone. Or Enlil saying, hey, let's get rid of them all. The bloodline's tainted. Just, get rid of them all. And then Enki saying, well, actually, I want to keep my little creation alive, which he created. Stephens wrote 1:11. I'm not sure I'm guessing that's something from the Bible. Forgive me, I do not memorize every single passage in the Bible, so I couldn't tell you what that was. It was early on, Genesis. It would have been. Probably 1:11. Probably would have been the 6 days of creation, which again, watch my video on YouTube and you'll see that there's an older text talking about the 6 days of creation and resting on the seventh with Enki. So either God copied the Anunnaki or the Anunnaki were God. It's just sorry, it's just my logic just says it's too simple. Teresa's wrote, may I ask, did the Sumerian in cuneiform say that the gods came from the Draco Star Cluster? No, they said they came from the 12th planet in our solar system, which would have been a planet called Nibiru or Nibru, if you also look at other translations. And that's why Michael Heiser, Dr. Michael Heiser, who was that oh boy, you should watch my Lost Book of Our True History on the Patreon page. I destroy him, even though he's now passed. He's the guy that also did a YouTube video called Sitchin's a Liar. My God, do I destroy him. And when I say my God, I'm talking about me. I destroy his research. I've already done it on my TikTok videos anyway, but I annihilate his... sorry if I sound big-headed, but it's what I do. So no, yes, they come from the 12th planet, which is why they called us the 7th planet, which makes sense because we're the 7th planet out, not third rock from the sun. Because that's the way we look at us. They looked at us from outwards, inwards, which, again, first ever language. Who writes that? Unless you know something about 12 planets. Seriously? Alfred's wrote, it's all in the fluoride, what that's making people dumber for disinformation. Yeah, you're right, guys. Gina's wrote, Jesus is not God. Yeah, I know. I didn't even want to get into that with that other person when he says Jesus is God, because technically I could then turn around and said to that person, what about Jesus' brothers? And that person would have said, what you on about? And then I'll say, well, I thought you know your stuff. And then I would have said, the sons of God that took unto them the daughters of man. It's in the Bible. And then that person would have said, oh, well, that's metaphorical and made up any old rubbish they want, because they wouldn't want that to be associated with Jesus, because those sons of God, which were the Ajiji Anunnaki, the Watchers, actually physically came down and stole human women and made brides of them, made wives with them. So, of course, the Bible's got that, but no one mentions that when they mention Jesus. Jesus is a God, but what about the sons? What about his brothers? Yeah, they always run. They do a runner at that point. It's interesting. It's funny. My mum yesterday when I was there, she said, "Oh, she had Jehovah Witnesses knock." I was like, "Oh, you lucky sod." Poor my mum could hardly stand. Bless her. She was standing at the door, and I said, "Oh, mum," I said, "I wish I was there. I do love chatting to them." Christa, their faces. They know nothing. Bless them, about anything really, other than the Bible. Christopher wrote, "There are gods, and then there is God." Again, how? Just answer this, Christopher. How come the Anunnaki use the same name? Lord, the great Lord Enki, our father, who art in space, created us. Got the evidence of that, physical evidence. Whereas you probably won't have any evidence whatsoever. We've even got the fused chromosomes. We even know that Homo sapiens started in Africa. Guess what the tablets say? Did God say he created us in? No, he didn't. He said in the Garden of Eden, which again was wrong anyway, because if you actually read the tablets, there's a whole other story. So there can't be an almighty God. There has to be creational source. You can't have two lots with the same name, because someone nicked the name, and we all know one's older than the other. And don't say God's older than the Anunnaki gods, because that means God would have allowed them to use his name. It's just too easy. So I just got scrolling all the way back up. I just quickly saw who created aliens with laughing faces. Chemicals. Go look it up. You'll find chemicals can create life. Oh dear. That's embarrassing now, isn't it? And Joe's also wrote who created the aliens. Again, chemicals. Go look it up. You'll find the life is created now or can be created. Proven. But of course you don't want to hear that. You just want to hear that God created it, which unfortunately chemicals do. So it negates the need. Sorry, I'm just trying to get back to where I was. I am on 13% on my battery, so normally I let this go till it dies. Okay, I'm just nearly back to where I was. Switching translated facts. Where's the videos? Again, outruehistory.co.uk. Dead Sea Scrolls. Sorry, I'm just trying to get back. TikTok scrolls me to the bottom sometimes. I do like reading these questions out, every single one of them. Happy Maggie's wrote, "I was 13 when I figured out that we were created by aliens 50 years ago. It only makes sense." Thank you, Cyrus. And yes, you're right, Maggie. That's what I pretty much did. Again, thank you, Cyrus. When I was at school, they took me to the Natural History Museum, and I saw the evolution chart, ape to man, and I thought, well, why we still got apes? And it just didn't work with me. I was very young then. I thought, if we've all evolved, then we should have no more apes, really, logically. And then that was the first thing that got me, because obviously otherwise we would have all the ones in between as well. But we got nothing in between other than the apes and us. So all the hominids have all gone. You could say we wiped them out, which technically we did, but we also had the missing link with the fused chromosomes. So yes, basically you're right. It made sense. Franco's wrote, "Yep, the AGG." I'm guessing the AGG were the Watchers. Correct. They were. Well done. You've obviously done your homework. So there's good people here tonight that have actually done their homework by the looks of it. Christie's wrote, "I have heard humans were made by a self race." I'll read that again. "I have heard humans were made by the I'm guessing as a self race." Okay, so whatever you've heard, ignore that. We've got the original tablets, first ever language that wrote about creating a species here on Earth. Whatever you've heard, I'm not knocking you, I'm just saying whatever you've heard, no one will have the evidence for. But we've got the evidence of the first ever language talking about it. Kelsey's wrote, "So interesting to listen to." Thank you very much. I do cover other things, not just I cover time travel, and Bigfoot and spirits and crop circles and cattle mutilations and so much stuff. So feel free to, watch my videos on TikTok or go to my website, outtruehistory.co.uk, and enjoy yourself, knock yourself out. Christopher's wrote, we are a fractal of them, even in culture. I'm guessing fraction, maybe, of them, even in culture. Obviously now, Western civilizations and things, but yeah, I mean, I think certain places around the world still have certain attributes to the Anunnaki, such as turbans. The Anunnaki wore turbans. You know how we know that? We've actually got the carvings of them wearing turbans. So we know they wore turbans. Just so happens people started wearing turbans. Made sense. The Anunnaki wore them. Anunnaki had earrings. We have earrings. Anunnaki wore makeup. We wear makeup. So there's a lot of things that the Anunnaki gave to us without even giving to us as such. As you say, cultures. Kerry's wrote, most cannot accept anything but the biblical text, no matter how contradictory the text is. I have found that, Kerry, and if they don't get it, they seem to swear and say naughty bad things about me, which is really sad. But so yeah, I hear you. Michael's wrote, so it's the Agigi-groominess. No, I'd say it's the sick, power-hungry elites. I mean, just look at, spoiler alert, just look at, what was that TV program, the Korean one, I think it was, Squid Game. Just look at that. Basically, the elites were so rich and were so bored that they invented games, and let people kill themselves. So that's how I see the elites, that they're so rich and powerful and everything else, they can just demand kids, they can have an island, they can do what they want. So I think it's them, and I think they're the ones pushing the age limits down and teaching our young children about. You don't want to know what they want to teach out. You've probably seen the videos, but yeah, they want to teach young kids about stuff that even adults technically shouldn't really be doing. Bulldog wrote, where did the word God come from? The Anunnaki. The first ever written language ever has the race name as the Anunnaki, which their race name was called gods or God. Same as humans, no different. But unfortunately, because they created us and we worshipped individually the certain people, whoever was in that area, we worshipped them. When I say people, Anunnaki. So Anunnaki is a name that was given to those that came here from heaven, came to Earth. Heaven being space. Again, I proved that in that video series that I'm doing called Lost Book of Our True History. So yeah, the first word ever before the Bible was a race of beings that called themselves God and goddesses. Gods and goddesses. It's all in the tablets. So it can't be blasphemy. However, I just saw George, it scrolled all the way to the bottom, writing blasphemy. How can it be blasphemy, George? On a serious note, just answer me this. If they knew, they never got told by God, because God talked to Moses, God talked to the 12 disciples, but God never spoke to the Anunnaki. No evidence of that whatsoever. But even if he did, he allowed them to use the name Lord and Lords and God and gods and goddesses. You have to agree with that, because they have the first ever language writes about the gods, the council of gods, and they did this and the gods and da 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 da. In fact, so much so that the same 12 main gods ended up being the same ones in Greece. So you can't say blasphemy when the first ever language talks about a race of beings called gods, and yet the Almighty God came along later, sits on a lapis lazuli throne, and don't say he doesn't, do your homework. You have to get up pretty early to catch me out. And And yet Enlil sits on a lapis lazuli throne in Israel, which, funny enough, in the Bible it talks about God of Israel. So don't say blasphemy when the Anunnaki were the gods. Predates the Bible by thousands of years. Scrolled all the way to the top. Sorry about this. So I'm missing some questions. Hidden Lights wrote, Allah is the one and only God, not have a start and an end. Nothing similar to him. He is your creator. So I know certain people get angry by this, so I'm just going to move on. Anyone that has listened to me long enough knows exactly the truth. I'm not going to get into that with Hidden Light because the evidence I've already pointed to. Cyrus wrote, that's truly funny. I'm not sure what I was saying at that point. Sorry, because it's I'm behind on time. Cyrus wrote that our Father saying, oh right, yeah, our Father who art in space. Well, he is. That's exactly what it is. When you actually do read the Bible properly, you'll realise that heaven is space. It really is, because the Bible even talks about in heaven we can see the stars, the sun, and the moon, which means we can see heaven because we can see the sun, stars, and moon. Of course, we can't see heaven, but we can see space. That was the name for space. It's too easy to do this. It really is. George has wrote, we will come back to rule the earth. Not sure I've missed a chunk now, sorry. Kevin's wrote, it's all documented and illustrated in the Bible, ancient scriptures, even stained glass windows. That's like 2,000 years onwards. I'm talking thousands of years before the Bible. Literally thousands of years before the Bible. So when you say it's documented and illustrated in the Bible... please don't. I haven't got the battery power to laugh that much, sorry. When we've got the tablets, that the carvings. You're on about illustrations in a Bible. I'm on about carvings that predate. I'm on about buildings that we can't even recreate today. We cannot recreate them today. Go look in India. Go look at Jordan. Go look at Mesopotamia. Go look at Iraq, Turkey, Baalbek, Lebanon, Göbekli Tepe. Oh man, the list goes on. You're telling me a god done all that, or a smart alien race? I know which one I'll go with. Hidden has wrote, do you take creation to be your God, O blind heart, return to Allah? I'm going to pass on that one. You know why, people. You know why. Merrill's wrote, chemicals created us. Yes, do a little bit of research, and you'll find that about 6 months ago, scientists admitted that they've now created life using chemicals from nothing. And of course, when you realise chemicals are in space, in rocks, in grass, in mud, in everything, then it doesn't take our true history to work out, or an Einstein, whoever's smarter. I know which one I'll go with. Sorry, it scrolled all the way to the bottom. Someone's getting blocked for probably being naughty. Yeah, moderator Alfredo blocked someone. Muted someone called B. Don't get angry, guys. If you're religious and my phone's froze. Sorry, one sec. Hopefully you can still hear me. I don't know if you can still hear me. My phone's overheating, it says.